Chapter 701 Heart of the Strong. Shortly after, Yi Chun, Mu Ling, and Mu Xiao continued to soar through the skies. The beast chaos persisted, and as Mu Ling and Mu Xiao still had to rescue others, they naturally could not spend all their time chatting idly with Yi Chun. However, they didn't part ways with Yi Chun but instead had him join them in their actions. After the great beast turmoil had subsided, they would have a detailed discussion. At this moment, seeing the beast chaos ravage the entire fiery realm and spread toward the icy realm, Yi Chun also thought of following Mu Ling and Mu Xiao around the Nine Suns' ancient land to witness the situation of this great chaos. Even though their conversation had been brief, Yi Chun's relationship with Mu Ling and Mu Xiao had already changed markedly. Through Yi Chun, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao now knew that their ancestor, the former territory king also known as Elder Kudu, was currently undergoing arduous cultivation in a secret realm of the lower realm. The two of them also learned that Yi Chun was a martial artist who came to the divine kingdom from that lower realm, having truly received the cultivation technique taught by Elder Kudu. Moreover, the power of this technique showed that Yi Chun was held in high regard by Elder Kudu. Since their ancestor valued Yi Chun so highly, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao naturally treated Yi Chun with great courtesy. Furthermore, when they learned that Yi Chun had obtained the opportunity to participate in the assessment of the 9 great divine institutes and thus came to the divine kingdom, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao were tremendously shocked. Of course, they knew just how difficult it was to get a chance to participate in the assessment for the 9 divine institutes from the lower realms. Only those legendary martial artists from the lower realm who could survive the Grande Purge catastrophe of the lower realm and obtain the most precious treasures amidst that catastrophe could possibly earn a spot in the assessments of the 9 divine institutes. Mu Ling and Mu Xiao had already witnessed Yi Chun's miracles. Now, considering that Yi Chun had been able to raise his combat strength to this level in the lower realm and even obtained a spot for the divine institute assessments, they no longer considered themselves superior as powerful divine kings. Instead, they began to interact with Yi Chun as peers. Yi Chun, my friend, the Supreme Divine Institute is the most powerful among the 9 great divine institutes. You must strive to join the Supreme Divine Institute during the assessment. Mu Ling said earnestly to Yi Chun. Mu Xiao also said, yes, both Mu Ling and I are disciples of the Supreme Divine Institute. Indeed, it is the best place for martial artists in the divine kingdom to cultivate. With your current strength, joining the Supreme Divine Institute shouldn't be a problem. I'm afraid you even have a good chance of competing for one of the top spots among the Institute's assessment disciples. Hearing what Mu Ling and Mu Xiao said, Yi Chun nodded. The Supreme Divine Institute, whether it was Elder Kudu or the East Territory King, both had spoken of the Institute's power. The formidable divine kings Yi Chun had encountered this time, such as Long Li and the powerful Mu Ling and Mu Xiao standing before him, all hailed from the Supreme Divine Institute. If he were to join an institute, it would naturally be the most powerful one. Yi Chun was, of course, extremely interested in the Supreme Divine Institute. Continue reading at novel bin. Calm. While flying and conversing, the three soon encountered another group of martial artists being pursued by demon creatures. This time, Mu Xiao took action directly, saving another group of people. They continued this way, flying, rescuing, and talking. It took Yi Chun, Mu Ling, and Mu Xiao most of the day to scour a large part of the fiery realm. They saved many people and also witnessed the deaths of countless martial artists in the beast turmoil before it finally began to subside. The terrifyingly fierce demon creatures, after rampaging and killing for most of the day, finally calmed their raging hearts and found new habitats within the 9 Suns' ancient land. Above the void, looking at the ravaged fiery realm and the icy realm that was also heavily affected, Mu Xiao sighed. Martial artists keep cultivating, but they will encounter natural disasters and also suffer many man-made calamities. Just take this great beast turmoil for example. I'm afraid more than 1 million martial artists have been killed. None of these million could have imagined that it was the actions of that higher divine king Qin Feng from the divine dragon mountain that led them to death within the 9 Suns' ancient land. Mu Ling's brows knitted. That Qin Feng is truly ruthless. He doesn't care about these demon creatures. Yet his actions led to their killing so many true gods. Yi Chun, standing beside the two, had a cold light flashing in his eyes. Through his conversation with Mu Xiao and Mu Ling along the way, Yi Chun had learned that this great beast turmoil was caused by Qin Feng from Divine Dragon Mountain, due to his actions in the abyss of 10,000 beasts within the Nine Suns realm. Qin Feng's actions had almost led to Yi Chun's death at the hands of numerous higher Divine King's demon creatures, and caused the rest of the team, with whom he had grouped, to all fall. During his escape, Yi Chun had seen with his own eyes the corpses of the few who had come with him to Flame Mountain being killed, as well as the corpses of many more fallen martial artists. All this was the result of the evil caused by Qin Feng. How could it not fill Yi Chun with righteous indignation? The thought of eliminating this hateful Qin Feng and making him experience the feeling of being killed without a care for his life surged in Yi Chun's heart. Unfortunately, that Qin Feng was a higher divine king, extraordinarily powerful even among higher divine kings, capable of battling with Earth Divine Venerable. Yi Chun was not even able to deal with those terrifying demon creatures that feared Qin Feng, let alone contend with Qin Feng himself. This left Yi Chun feeling somewhat powerless. Humph, fortunes change like the rotation of the rivers and mountains. Once I have cultivated to a divine king and defeated him, it won't be impossible. That Qin Feng comes from the Divine Dragon Mountain of the Divine Kingdom's East Province, a power that doesn't get along with the East Territory King's estate. In the future, I'm afraid I'll have plenty of opportunities to confront this person. Once I'm strong enough, I certainly need to make him pay dearly for his actions today. In the end, Yi Chun thought, grinding his teeth. Mu Ling and Mu Xiao could very well understand Yi Chun's feelings. Mu Xiao said to Yi Chun, "Yi Chun, this is the world of survival of the fittest in the Divine Kingdom. That Qin Feng is indeed detestable, but he's strong enough not to care about the wrath of true gods. Many true gods didn't even get a chance to resent him before they died. Such things happen too often in the Divine Kingdom. Once, two heavenly divine venerables fought, resulting in the destruction of a star continent inhabited by martial artists. They had no idea how many martial artists died in the aftermath of the battle between those two heavenly divine venerables. Those martial artists, like those who died in this beast chaos, probably didn't know until their deaths what caused their homelands to crumble, nor did they understand what had happened. And those two heavenly divine venerables, who also came from prominent backgrounds, were not pursued in the end by the Western Territory King, who governed that star continent. Thus, those martial artists died in vain. Fellow Yi Chun, we live in the Divine Kingdom where countless heavenly tribulations and divine calamities are inevitable. Similarly, innumerable man-made disasters sometimes cannot be avoided. There's only one way, and that is to make ourselves strong enough to deal with all natural disasters and man-made afflictions." Mu Xiao's words made Yi Chun nod deeply in agreement. In the eyes of the strong, the lives of the weak are nothing more than chaff, unworthy of their attention. Then do not be weak, be the absolute strong. Be the existence that those who regard life as worthless must look up to. My path is still very long. I don't want my homeland to be destroyed without cause one day, as Mu Xiao described, by the actions of powerful beings. Nor do I want to die inexplicably in natural or man-made disasters. My father and mother are still waiting for me. Zhang Yao is waiting for me in the 10,000 Beasts domain. How could I not become stronger? One day, once I become an existence like the East Territory King, like Elder Ku Du, who in the Divine Kingdom would dare disregard my feelings? And one day, when I become an existence like Lord Emperor Yen, like ZG Star Lord, would I still need to worry about disasters in the Divine Kingdom? Only strength matters. Yi Chun took a deep breath and clenched his fists. The heart of the strong surged within Yi Chun. After their conversation, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao asked Yi Chun, "Fellow Yi Chun, the great beast turmoil has now subsided. What are your plans next?" Yi Chun's gaze turned straight to the Nine Suns realm. In his hand, he still held the secret treasure map he had obtained from the Golden Light Quintuplets, which claimed that a great opportunity lay within the heaven-reaching ancient tree, and entering it might enhance his combat power once again. Yi Chun, wanting to become stronger, would naturally not miss such an opportunity. He already had the fire elemental lotus seed, enough for a breakthrough to a 5 tribulation true god. But of course, Yi Chun was not satisfied with being just a 5 tribulation true god. He intended to strive for an even higher realm. I plan to go to the 9 Suns realm, to a place called Heaven-Reaching Ancient Tree. Yi Chun said to Mu Ling and Mu Xiao, "If you two friends have no other plans, you can come with me and check it out." 9 Suns realm, Heaven-Reaching Ancient Tree? Mu Ling and Mu Xiao looked at each other and nodded with a smile. Since we came to the 9 Suns realm just for a diversion, let's join Yi Chun and check it out together. Yi Chun intended to take the 2 people who owed him a life-saving favor to the heaven-reaching ancient tree. If there were an opportunity, it would also count as repaying their kindness. Meanwhile, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao, after learning of Yi Chun's background, thought to protect him along the way, to ensure Yi Chun didn't fall into danger again in the treacherous 9 Suns realm. Little did the trio know that Long Li was currently within the heaven-reaching ancient tree they aimed to visit. And moreover, several others were also gradually making their way to that place. Chapter 702- Heaven-Reaching Ancient Tree. After Long Li and Zhu Qianqian, Zhu Qingqing entered the tree hole at the very top of the heaven-reaching ancient tree. The second person to arrive at the area of the heaven-reaching ancient tree was none other than Yang Yun, whose strength was only second to Long Li. Upon reaching the area of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, Yang Yun directly flew down to the trunk of the tree, lifting his head to gaze at the heaven-reaching ancient tree that grew into the sky, resembling a colossal pillar supporting the heavens. Eventually, his gaze fell upon the numerous tree holes sealed by enchantments on the trunk, assessing thousands of them from top to bottom. To chase after junior sister Long Li's traces, with her formidable strength, I can hardly notice them, he said. For that reason, I've searched for a long time but haven't found junior sister Long Li. However, fortunately, I thought of those 2 women, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing. These 2 women, having suddenly come from the Danxia Valley of the northern region to the 9 Suns ancient land, and now Danxia Valley is completely obedient to the commands of the Northern Territory King. I've heard that the matter of junior sister Long Li coming to the 9 Suns ancient land, the Northern Territory King is extremely concerned. It seems, indeed, that Her Highness the Northern Territory King sent Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing to aid junior sister Long Li. I cannot find junior sister Long Li directly, but I can speculate about junior sister Long Li's whereabouts from the movements of Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing. My mysterious heavenly divine treasure has detected that they have come here. Presumably, it's very likely that junior sister Long Li has also arrived here. Thinking of this, Yang Yun's breathing grew more rapid. This heaven-reaching ancient tree is rumored to be a mystical place left by the 9 Suns Venerable, that heavenly divine venerable. Could it be that junior sister Long Li came here for this heaven-reaching ancient tree? Yang Yun's gaze turned toward the tree holes sealed by enchantments on the ancient tree, his eyes gleaming with brilliance. It's a pity that after I detected Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing's arrival here, their traces disappeared, leaving me clueless as to which tree hole they entered. Additionally, these tree holes were left by the heavenly divine venerable. Without a specific method to break the seals or guidance on the route, it's impossible to enter. Even though I can fight against the upper divine venerables, I'm still not a match for the heavenly divine venerable. How can I enter these tree holes? The speculation that Long Li might be in one of these tree holes, yet being unable to enter and investigate, filled Yang Yun with immense frustration. In the end, he could only stay beneath the heaven-reaching ancient tree, wandering around while pondering over the method to enter the tree holes. After Yang Yun arrived at the heaven-reaching ancient tree and had not yet found the method to enter the tree holes, before long, another figure flew down to this place. This figure was Yang Yen, who hailed from the same domain as Yang Yun and also came from the Tai Yun heaven forces. How come you are here too? Seeing Yang Yen also arrive at the heaven-reaching ancient tree, Yang Yun raised his eyebrow in slight dissatisfaction and asked. Yang Yen replied with a smile, "If Brother Yun can be here, why can't I?" Yang Yun snorted coldly, "Humph. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Let me tell you, it's useless to come here. You won't find any trace of junior sister Long Li. Upon hearing Yang Yun's words, Yang Yen, disbelieving, flew toward various parts of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, only to return after a while with a somber expression. Strange, why is it that it was clear Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing had come here, yet now there are no traces to be found? Could they have entered these tree holes? But there are thousands of tree holes in this heaven-reaching ancient tree. I've tried for half a day and couldn't break the seal on any of them. How am I supposed to find junior sister Long Li? Just like Yang Yun, Yang Yen was filled with immense frustration. Both of them were proud talents of the divine kingdom, and they had never taken the Nine Suns ancient land left by the Nine Suns Venerable. The heavenly divine Venerable seriously, let alone sought the treasures within. Their sole purpose in coming to the Nine Suns ancient land this time was to create more opportunities to be around Long Li. However, upon entering the Nine Suns ancient land, they had not seen Long Li, and she had no intention of communicating with them. Now, unable to find any trace of Long Li, they were naturally filled with immense frustration. Nevertheless, neither was willing to leave. Both guessed that Long Li was with Zhu Qingqing and Zhu Qianqian in this vicinity of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, so naturally, they were not willing to waste time elsewhere. After exchanging glances, both Yang Yun and Yang Yen snorted coldly and sat down beneath the heaven-reaching ancient tree, opting to directly wait. After more than 1 hour had passed, a third Upper God King arrived at the area of the heaven-reaching ancient tree. This Upper God King was none other than Qin Feng, who had plotted to obtain the inner core of the sky-swallowing azure python in the abyss of 10,000 beasts, which resulted in the outbreak of beast turmoil throughout the whole fiery realm. Before Qin Feng completely flew into the area of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, Yang Yun and Yang Yen noticed him, and he too had already spotted the two of them. "Ha ha! Brother Yang Yun, brother Yang Yen, the two of you are truly smitten with junior sister Long Li, to actually come here so early and wait for her." Qin Feng's loud laughter reached Yang Yun and Yang Yen from afar. Yang Yun and Yang Yen, of course, were extremely familiar with Qin Feng. All three of them were disciples of the Supreme Divine Institute, and at the same time they were the second, fourth, and fifth top geniuses ranked on the jointly established Divine King ranking by the 9 major divine institutes. They were also admirers of Long Li, competing with each other since their time at the Supreme Divine Institute, and were as familiar with each other as one could possibly be. "Qin Feng, judging by your smug look, have you really managed to get that thing you wanted?" Yang Yun glanced indifferently at Qin Feng and spoke out. Hearing Yang Yun's words, Qin Feng proudly raised an eyebrow. "That's right, although I'm ranked lower than you two brothers on the Divine King ranking. I'm not as carefree as you two, waiting for junior sister Long Li since arriving at the Nine Suns ancient land. I must seize this opportunity to get a few treasures. Ha ha, after getting my hands on the inner core of that sky-swallowing azure python, I might step into the ranks of the earthly divine venerable even before you two." "Earthly divine venerable?" Yang Yen on the other side scoffed. "If I weren't fortifying my foundation to challenge the earthly divine venerable with the golden toad 12 transformations, I would have entered their ranks a long time ago. Qin Feng, the trouble you've caused this time for the inner core of that sky-swallowing azure python is not insignificant. The beast chaos you've incited has resulted in at least 1,000,000 true gods dead. You better be careful when you face the mysterious heavenly divine tribulation, lest the heart tribulation strikes you and turns you to ashes." Yang Yan's words made Qin Feng's face change, and he glared back fiercely at Yang Yen. "Since when have you become so merciful, brother Yang Yen? I heard that you also sacrificed quite a few martial artists' lives in the Western Territory to practice the Golden Toad 12 transformations. The blood fate on your hands is no less than mine. Besides, aren't they just some true gods? Humph. Every day countless true gods die in the divine kingdom. Those who died in this minor beast chaos simply lacked the strength. It's not my fault." Qin Feng and Yang Yen confronted each other sharply, while Yang Yun waved his hand. "Stop arguing. Those true gods are dead and arguing is pointless. What matters is finding the whereabouts of junior sister Long Li. We can't just wait around like this. I heard that after she returns from the Nine Suns ancient land this time, she'll likely enter the supreme ultimate heaven for cultivation. Then, Meeting junior sister Long Li will become even more difficult. Hearing Yang Yun's words, Yang Yan and Qin Feng also stopped their squabbling and began to ponder over how to unlock this heaven-reaching ancient tree's tree hole. But despite thinking for a long time, they had no solution. Read exclusive chapters at novelbin.com. Someone else is coming. As the three were frowning, they almost simultaneously sensed a disturbance in the void and looked directly into the emptiness. The result was that Yang Yun, Yang Yan, and Qin Feng saw three figures emerging from the void, flying towards their location at the trunk of the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Upon recognizing the three figures, Yang Yun narrowed his eyes. It turns out to be Mu Ling and Mu Xiao from the Mu King Mansion, two lower-ranked divine kings, and a young true god of the four tribulations. What are they doing here? Could it be that they are also searching for junior sister Long Li? At that moment, above the void, Yi Chun, Mu Ling, and Mu Xiao also noticed Yang Yun, Yang Yan, and Qin Feng. Seeing these three high-ranking divine kings gathered under the heaven-reaching ancient tree, Yi Chun, Mu Ling, and Mu Xiao were all somewhat surprised. However, although Mu Ling and Mu Xiao practiced in the Supreme Divine Institute like Yang Yun, Yang Yan, and Qin Feng, they didn't have much of a relationship with them. They just glanced at Yang Yun and his group once and, along with Yi Chun, flew towards the lowest tree hole of the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Fellow Taoist Yi Chun, is this the tree hole you were talking about? Mu Xiao sent a message to Yi Chun. Yi Chun nodded and replied, "That's right. The guidance from the secret chart definitely points to this place." However, Yi Chun did not directly follow the guidance of the secret chart to open the lowest tree hole. With Yang Yun, Yang Yan, and Qin Feng, three high-ranking divine kings eyeing them closely, Yi Chun naturally did not want to reveal anything about the secret chart. Upon seeing Qin Feng, a cold light flashed in the depths of Yi Chun's eyes. Yi Chun also didn't expect that the culprit behind the beast chaos would leave the abyss of 10,000 beasts so quickly and appear here. Although Yi Chun didn't take any action, Yang Yun, Yang Yan, and Qin Feng were not simple characters. They immediately guessed the reason Yi Chun, Mu Xiao, and Mu Ling had come to the heaven-reaching ancient tree. It seemed that the three were not here for Long Li, so the only possibility was that they had some connection with the heaven-reaching ancient tree itself. With Long Li possibly inside the heaven-reaching ancient tree at that moment, Yang Yun, Yang Yan, and Qin Feng certainly did not want Yi Chun and the others to have any involvement with the tree. Yang Yun and Yang Yan had not taken any action yet, but Qin Feng didn't care about Yi Chun's thoughts in the slightest. Looking at Yi Chun, he gave a cold smile. "This territory has been requisitioned by us. If Mu Xiao and Mu Ling, both from the Mu King Mansion, wish to stay here for a while, that's no problem. Kid, is this place meant for a mere for tribulation's true god?" Scram. Chapter 703-Confrontation. This Qin Feng, as soon as Yi Chun had landed, directly began to rant and berate him. He even wanted to directly drive Yi Chun out of the heaven-reaching ancient tree area. This person was not only ruthless in his methods, but was also so arrogantly domineering. Upon hearing Qin Feng's words, Yi Chun's expression turned cold. Due to the beast chaos, Yi Chun had long found this Qin Feng displeasing to the eye, and now hearing him berating him, how could Yi Chun be intimidated by an upper god king? Even if Yi Chun could not yet overcome this Qin Feng, but for Qin Feng to think he could chastise Yi Chun at will with his upper god king realm, that was simply a fantasy. Yi Chun, who could even speak frankly with great powers of the sovereign realm, how could he fear an upper god king? Get lost. Yi Chun looked at Qin Feng indifferently. Based on you, what do you even count for? As Yi Chun spoke, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao landed one to the left and one to the right of him, both staring angrily at Qin Feng, and said coldly, "Qin Feng, what do you think you're doing?" Although Mu Ling and Mu Xiao were much younger than Qin Feng and were only at the lower god king realm, unable to defeat Qin Feng, originating from Mu King Mansion, they were not at all intimidated by Qin Feng. Yi Chun had significant connections with their ancestors. Experience tales at novelbin.com. Mu Ling and Mu Xiao had come to the Nine Suns realm with the intention to protect Yi Chun, and they certainly wouldn't let Yi Chun be bullied. Yi Chun's words left Yang Yan and Yang Yun utterly surprised. They could not have imagined that a minor for tribulation's true god would dare to speak to Qin Feng, an upper god king, in such a manner. Seeing Mu Ling and Mu Xiao standing by Yi Chun, obviously not going to stand by and let Yi Chun be bullied, it made Yang Yun and Yang Yan speculate about Yi Chun's identity even more. For a moment, the two exchanged glances, but didn't say anything. As for that Qin Feng, he was nearly exploding with rage. He had never heard a nobody dare to speak to him like this from his childhood to adulthood. Coming from one of the four great forces, Divine Dragon Mountain, moreover a direct descendant of the 8-star sovereign realm powerhouse Qin Yuntian, leader of Divine Dragon Mountain. He had only ever scolded and bullied the weak, never experiencing defiance from them. Only in the presence of an exceptionally talented individual like Long Li, whose strength and status both surpassed his own, would he show some weakness. And Yi Chun, being a mere four tribulations true god, was of course an absolute weakling, an absolute nobody in Qin Feng's eyes. Now, that such a nobody says he doesn't amount to anything, of course he couldn't stand it. Qin Feng, who was used to arrogance, didn't even care about Mu Ling and Mu Xiao standing beside Yi Chun. Just as Mu Ling and Mu Xiao came from Mu King Mansion and did not fear him, he came from Divine Dragon Mountain and likewise did not fear Mu Ling and Mu Xiao. What a sharp-tongued brat you are. I'll let you know today what kind of punishment comes from showing disrespect to your superiors. Qin Feng's large hand suddenly reached out, aiming to grab Yi Chun directly. You really dare to make a move? Mu Ling and Mu Xiao were furious, and both flashed out a sword that was unimaginably fast, aiming to slash at Qin Feng's large hand. At that moment, however, Qin Feng let out a cold smile. His large hand met Mu Ling's and Mu Xiao's attacks head-on, and at the same time, a bizarre and eerie black light bypassed them both, instantly striking towards Yi Chun. Being at the lower God King realm, even if they were extraordinarily strong, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao could not completely block the attack from the equally formidable upper God King Qin Feng. Seeing the strange black light aiming for Yi Chun, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao hurriedly retracted their swords and rushed to rescue Yi Chun. At that moment, they heard Qin Feng's cold voice. Too late now. Do you think I still possess the same strength as when you last saw me, dreaming of rescuing someone in front of me? Dream on. Before Qin Feng's words had even finished echoing, the sinister black light aimed at Yi Chun surged in speed to an unbelievable degree, reaching him just as Mu Ling and Mu Xiao had begun to move to Yi Chun's aid. Then, something unexpected happened. The moment this peculiar black light touched Yi Chun's body, it was violently repelled and even rebounded towards Qin Feng. A cold sneer froze on Qin Feng's face. He could not comprehend how his move, which could easily kill an upper god king, was blocked by a mere for tribulation's true god. Of course, Qin Feng couldn't have anticipated that Yi Chun was clad in the star-blue divine garment, forged from a mysterious heavenly object. Although Yi Chun was not capable of defeating Qin Feng, the formidable defensive power of the star-blue divine garment left Yi Chun unfazed by Qin Feng's attacks. Even if Qin Feng were to use his most powerful techniques, reaching the skills of a sovereign realm, he might possibly pierce through the star-blue divine garment. But Yi Chun still had 9 divine thunder pearls at his disposal, and life-saving talismans too. Yi Chun certainly had his countermeasures ready. With Qin Feng's attack repelled, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao deployed flying swords to fully shield Yi Chun. Having almost exposed Yi Chun to mortal peril, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao naturally would not allow Yi Chun to be threatened again. The two directly said to Qin Feng, do you really want to turn against Mu King Mansion? Turn against us? Qin Feng looked at Mu Ling and Mu Xiao coldly. Is this insignificant four tribulations true god truly worth your Mu King Mansion turning against me? To Qin Feng's surprise, Mu Ling and Mu Xiao did not hesitate at all before replying, of course, he is worth it. Mu Ling went further, chastising him. Qin Feng, do you think you're something special? You've cultivated for hundreds of years to reach the upper god king realm, but Yi Chun has only cultivated for over a decade, yet he's able to suppress lower god kings with the power of a four tribulations true god and defend against the siege of countless upper god king beasts. Compared to Yi Chun, your talent is far inferior. You're only taking advantage of the fact that you've cultivated for longer than Yi Chun. By the time Yi Chun reaches your age, reaching the sovereign realm will be a breeze for him. Such a talent is naturally valued by our Mu King Mansion, certainly more so than you, Qin Feng. Mu Ling's words caused Qin Feng's expression to change repeatedly. He had not expected that the little princess of Mu King Mansion would dare to rebuke him like this, and seem willing to fall out with him over a mere for tribulation's true god. Humph, a dead genius is no longer a genius. I don't believe that your Mu King Mansion would really seek trouble with Divine Dragon Mountain over a genius who has not yet matured. Just the two of you think you can block me from killing him? Go ahead and try. A cold smile on his lips, Qin Feng was poised to strike once again. At that moment, high above in the void, suddenly came two voices. You think Mu Ling and Mu Xiao can't stop you? What if we join them? Does your Divine Dragon Mountain really want to make enemies with both king mansions of the Southern Territory? Boom! Boom! The space where the voices originated tore open, and two upper god kings revealed themselves. Those two upper god kings turned out to be Hong Ming and Hong Yi from the Southern Territory King Mansion. The two of them had also arrived at the heaven-reaching ancient tree, adding Long Li, Zhu Chanqian, and Zhu Qingqing who were already inside the heaven-reaching ancient tree. All of the 10 great god kings who had entered the Nine Suns ancient land had now assembled here. Chapter 704 – The 9th level. Hong Ming, senior brother. Hong Yi, senior brother. Seeing Hong Ming and Hong Yi suddenly appear, Mu Ling called out excitedly. She and her brother, Mu Xiao, were both lower god kings, and they faced great pressure to protect Yi Chun from Qin Feng, an upper god king, who was aggressively bearing down on them. But Hong Ming and Hong Yi were both upper god kings. Although Hong Ming and Hong Yi individual strength didn't surpass that of Qin Feng, who was ranked 5th on the god king list, their joint effort could easily defeat Qin Feng. Besides, they represented the Southern Territory King Mansion. Qin Feng might disregard Mu Ling and Mu Xiao from Mu King Mansion, but with both Mu King Mansion and the Southern Territory King's Hong Royal Mansion standing behind Yi Chun, Qin Feng had to rein in his arrogance. After all, he wouldn't dare to truly offend both Mu King Mansion and Hong Royal Mansion over killing Yi Chun, for fear that Divine Dragon Mountain would not let him off the hook. If that were the case, he might not even needed to worry about Mu King Mansion and Hong Royal Mansion settling the score with him. The elders of Divine Dragon Mountain would not let him off easily. For a moment, Qin Feng could only hold back, his gaze flickering. He had been publicly humiliated by Yi Chun and had intended to severely punish or even execute Yi Chun. But now he was abruptly stopped, and Qin Feng really didn't dare to make a move, which left him feeling like he had a stifled breath stuck in his chest. A feeling of frustration that lingered for a long time. Of course, Qin Feng was even less likely to back down. Qin Feng knew that Hong Ming and Hong Yi spoke for Yi Chun because of the deep relationship between the old Southern Territory King and the current Southern Territory King, and they were speaking on behalf of Mu Ling and Mu Xiao of Mu King Mansion, not for Yi Chun himself. It was Mu King Mansion that was truly looking after Yi Chun. Thinking of this, Qin Feng took a deep breath and coldly looked towards Yi Chun. Humph. I didn't expect that a mere four tribulations true god like you could cling to the coattails of Mu King Mansion. All right, this time, for the sake of Mu King Mansion and Hong Royal Mansion, I'll spare you. But boy, don't let me see you alone again. Otherwise, I will teach you a good lesson and show you the consequences of not behaving. Although Qin Feng refrained from physically confronting Yi Chun under the voices of the four god kings, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi, he still clearly had no intention of letting Yi Chun off the hook. He still threatened Yi Chun vocally. Hearing Qin Feng's words, both Mu Ling and Mu Xiao's expressions soured. But Mu Ling and Mu Xiao also knew that Qin Feng was someone who bore grudges, and that while they could stop him once, they certainly couldn't stop his future actions. Both looked worriedly at Yi Chun. Mu Ling and Mu Xiao were well aware that Qin Feng was right. It was impossible for Yi Chun to always follow them, and once alone facing Qin Feng, it would be extremely dangerous. However, Yi Chun just gave them a reassuring glance and then turned back to look at Qin Feng. Fix me up? Well, I'll be waiting. Yi Chun was currently at the Four Tribulations True God realm and, relying on items like the star-blue divine garment and the ancient sword skills, was already not afraid of Qin Feng. Furthermore, Yi Chen held in his hand the fiery lotus seed that could elevate him by one minor realm. Yi Chen was confident that he could swiftly boost his strength again. By then, even if facing Qin Feng alone, Yi Chen would have more trump cards, and he was confident that at the very least, he could fend off Qin Feng and was not at all intimidated by Qin Feng's threats. Instead, it spurred Yi Chen to grow even stronger. The standoff between Yi Chen and Qin Feng caught the special attention of Hong Ming and Hong Yi. The two could see that this youth, a four tribulations true god, was not fearless just because they came to his support. It seemed he genuinely had the courage to clash head-on with Qin Feng. Naturally, this piqued Hong Ming and Hong Yi's curiosity about Yi Chen's background and identity. Both of them covertly communicated with Mu Ling and Mu Xiao, inquiring about Yi Chen. When they heard from Mu Ling and Mu Xiao that Yi Chen came from the lower realm, and his combat strength was extraordinary, potentially surpassing even Yang Yun and Yang Yan present at the scene, and that he had obtained an examination slot for the 9 Great Divine Institutes while in the lower realm, and even met the old Southern Territory king who had been cultivating hard in the lower realm, Hong Ming and Hong Yi were shocked and their eyes widened. They had not expected the old Southern Territory king, who had disappeared for quite some time, to be hiding and cultivating in the lower realm. Nor did they expect that the young man they had helped would be so powerful that he could cultivate in the lower realm to a point where, as a four tribulations true god, he could suppress lower god kings and withstand upper god kings. No wonder junior sister Mu Ling and junior brother Mu Xiao sought to assist this Yi Chen. This Yi Chen indeed has exceptional potential. Even before his real growth, he is this formidable. His future is completely unpredictable. With his incredible power to cross realms in battle, he will likely make a name for himself in the Divine Kingdom very soon. Perhaps the 9 Great Divine Institutes examination will be the opportunity that draws the attention of all the institutes. Once he garners the focus of the 9 Great Divine Institutes, it's very possible that he will skyrocket to fame, and surpassing Qin Feng and the others might not be impossible. Hong Ming and Hong Yi couldn't help but harbor thoughts of befriending Yi Chen. Explore stories at novelbin.com. At this moment, Yang Yun, who had been mostly silent, saw that the quarrel between Yi Chen and Qin Feng was bound to fizzle out with the intervention of Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi. Yang Yun finally stepped forward with a smile, playing the mediator. All right, everyone is quite familiar with each other. Let's not damage our camaraderie. Hong Ming, Hong Yi, why have the two of you suddenly? Just as Yang Yun was about to ask why Hong Ming and Hong Yi had suddenly come to the heaven-reaching ancient tree, a loud noise erupted from high up the massive trunk that pierced the sky, interrupting Yang Yun's words. What's happening? Yang Yun quickly looked up towards the top of the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Not just Yang Yun, but the other onlookers, Yang Yan, Qin Feng, as well as Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, Hong Yi, and Yi Chen himself all turned their gaze towards the source of the loud noise above the heaven-reaching ancient tree. The heaven-reaching ancient tree was towering beyond compare. Yet everyone present was powerfully gifted with a wide-ranging divine sense. At a glance, they were able to clearly discern the events unfolding above. Every one of them had their expressions shift dramatically. They saw clearly, at the top of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, in a tree hollow, a small crack had appeared out of nowhere. The loud noise had come precisely from this small crack. At first, the crack was tiny, nearly invisible, but as the loud noise grew louder, the crack widened and ultimately surged into a colossal vortex 1,000 zhang in radius, completely obscuring the seals and restrictions of the tree hollow above. What surprised everyone even more was that as soon as they noticed the crack and heard the thunderous noise, a strange beam of light shone out from the crack, enveloping their entire bodies. At first, the light was weak, and even Yang Yun, the strongest among them, could not break free from the bonds of this strange light, let alone the rest, like Yang Yan, Qin Feng, and Yi Chen. As the crack became larger, the odd light grew brighter, and Yi Chen and the others were entirely restrained. And when the crack transformed into a gaping void, the peculiar light reached a blinding intensity. Eventually, This beam of light swept up all the onlookers and dragged them into the black hole. What they didn't know was that while they were swept into the black hole in shock, Divine Lady Long Li, Zhu Qianqian, and Zhu Qingqing, who were already deep inside the tree hollow at the top of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, had been engulfed by another strange black hole that had emerged there. Before their arrival at the region around the heaven-reaching ancient tree, Long Li, Zhu Qianqian, and Zhu Qingqing had already penetrated deep within to the 8th checkpoint inside the tree hollow. Eventually, Long Li, together with Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, all three being upper god kings, combined forces and deployed a special ancient sword skills. They managed to break the 8th checkpoint inside the tree hollow only by working together. This 8th checkpoint, I sensed it was a layer of protection very close to the blue extreme ice flame. When I sensed the blue extreme ice flame, Long Li said, because I deduced after my research that breaking through this checkpoint would require coordination with the ancient sword skills practiced by sisters Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing from Danxia Valley, I invited both sisters to help, explained Long Li. I didn't expect that we would truly manage to break through it. Having broken through this checkpoint that is extremely close to the blue extreme ice flame, it's likely that the blue extreme ice flame will appear in this world very soon. The blue extreme ice flame is something I desperately need. I must obtain it. Long Li's small face showed utmost solemnity. As she watched the 8th checkpoint disappear before her, she expected to see the blue extreme ice flame. But instead, a void black hole appeared. Long Li had just enough time to realize that perhaps she hadn't completely destroyed the checkpoint, and that this void was actually the blue extreme ice flame's final barrier, the 9th checkpoint, when the black hole suddenly swallowed her, Zhu Qianqian, and Zhu Qingqing whole. At the same time, the black hole spread from the highest point of the heaven-reaching ancient tree's hollow, engulfing outsiders like Yichun, Mu Ling, Qin Feng, and Yang Yun, sweeping them all into its depths. Little could Yang Yun and the others have imagined that their sought-after Divine Lady Long Li was not only really within the heaven-reaching ancient tree, but had also solved a deeply guarded checkpoint of a treasure they knew nothing about, ultimately dragging them into the challenges surrounding the blue extreme ice flame. After experiencing a strange void fluctuation, Yichun, who had been pulled into the black hole, regained consciousness to find himself standing in a narrow passageway lined with crimson flames that could only accommodate a dozen or so people. This cramped passageway led downward at an angle, with its depth entirely unknown. All around the passageway, including its walls, were flames. These flames, despite Yichun's immense strength, were of such a high temperature that he found difficult to withstand, and he even had to activate his star blue divine garment defense in order to ward off the heat of the flames. The heat from these flames was far hotter than the fiery realm outside the 9 suns ancient land, countless times hotter. What shocked Yichun further was that when he sent his divine sense down the passageway, he could not determine the bottom even after probing for hundreds of li. Even when he asked Xiaojiu, who was hiding within the ice snow jade pendant and had immensely powerful divine soul power, along with profound probing abilities, Xiaojiu also was unable to detect the bottom of the passageway. This passageway seemed like a bottomless inferno. Furthermore, Xiaojiu relayed to Yichun that she could sense the flames getting more terrifying further down. If they continued downward, it might not just be great gods like Yichun who would be unable to enter. Possibly even god kings and divine venerables, or even the most powerful among the divine venerables, the immortal divine venerable, might not be able to reach the depths of this place. Unless there was a special method to pass through these dreadful flames. Chapter 705 Reunion. Xiaojiu's words made Yichun take an incredulous deep breath. The 9 suns ancient land was left by the 9 suns venerable. How could there be a domain within the land left by the 9 suns venerable that not even the immortal divine venerable could enter? One must know, the immortal divine venerable is countless times more powerful than the heavenly divine venerable. But Yichun did not doubt Xiaojiu's words, for Xiaojiu was a powerful soul beast infused with endless knowledge by Lord Emperor Yen, and the situations she discerned were almost never wrong. Given the strength of the 9 suns venerable, it's unlikely he could have left such a terrifying fire domain. Xiaojiu continued to speak to Yichun. Yichun, I think it's very possible that we have entered the domain where a true ultimate heavenly object exists. Only an ultimate heavenly object could leave behind a special domain that countless divine venerables, even the most powerful immortal divine venerable, cannot fully enter. Ultimate heavenly object. When he heard these 4 words from Xiaojiu, Yi Chen's heart surged with shock. Yi Chen's incredibly powerful star blue divine garment was forged from the prototype of an ultimate heavenly object, that piece of tattered cloth. Merely the prototype of an ultimate heavenly object was so powerful, and without thinking, Yi Chen knew the true ultimate heavenly object would be exceptionally mighty. Yi Chen had long since heard from Xiaojiu that the true ultimate heavenly object could forge a real ultimate heavenly artifact. A real ultimate heavenly artifact was something only a few powerful sovereigns possessed, and many weaker sovereigns did not even have an ultimate heavenly artifact. The appearance of each ultimate heavenly object would trigger a frantic scramble among countless divine venerables, and if the powerful beings of the sovereign realm knew about it, those mighty ones would snatch it directly. Yi Chen had also been harboring the thought of slowly upgrading his star blue divine garment to the level of an ultimate heavenly artifact. How could Yi Chen have imagined that he would enter the true domain of an ultimate heavenly object within the 9 suns ancient land left by a heavenly divine venerable? It's just that I don't know why I and the others have been drawn into this place. Is it perhaps related to that ultimate heavenly object?
Yi Chen speculated.
While Yi Chen was shaken and speculating, the other divine kings who were transported into this narrow passage with Yi Chen were also utterly astounded. These powerful divine kings, Yang Yun, Yang Yen, Qin Feng, Hong Ming, Hong Yi, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao were all exceptionally strong. But like Yi Chen, they too sensed the terrifying power of the flames where they stood in the narrow passage. Even they were struggling to barely withstand it. When they probed downward and discovered the bottomless fire pit below and the more terrifying flames the deeper it went, the countenances of these divine kings also rapidly changed. They had the feeling that if they delved a few hundred meters deeper, the flames down there would be completely unbearable with their combat power. They were afraid that if they ventured further inside, they would be burned to death. Not only the terrifying domain and the horrifying flames surprised them, but these divine kings and Yi Chen were also shocked to discover 3 other people in this bottomless fire pit. They were the other 3 divine kings among the 10 who had entered the 9 suns ancient land. They were Long Li, Zhu Qianqian, and Zhu Qingqing. Junior sister Long Li, how come you're here too? When they saw Long Li, Yang Yen, Yang Yun, Qin Feng and the others were both startled and overjoyed. The surprise came from the fact that even Long Li, who was more powerful than them, had arrived in this dreadful domain, obviously indicating that this domain was not as simple as it seemed. The joy came from the fact that they were finally seeing Long Li again. Although Yi Chen, Mu Ling, and the others were not as thrilled as the 3 admirers of Long Li, Yang Yun, Yang Yen, Qin Feng, they were equally surprised. They had not expected to see Long Li here. On Long Li's side, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing were just as surprised as many others to find themselves drawn into this realm. However, neither of the women spoke. They simply stayed quietly by Long Li's side. When Long Li's gaze shifted toward Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng, she just nodded faintly without any fluctuation in her composure. But when she saw Yi Chen again, she couldn't help but fix her eyes firmly on him. How did he also come here? Long Li hadn't expected the young man, Yi Chen, who could trigger the mysterious and profound Star Luo God Ring within her, to also appear here, especially since Yi Chen was merely at the 4 tribulations true God realm. It made sense for powerful divine kings like Yang Yun and Yang Yen to break into the 9 suns realm and end up here inadvertently, but for Yi Chen, who was only at the 4 tribulations true God level, to arrive in this realm was totally unexpected to Long Li. With her usually clear and detached mind, Long Li wouldn't typically pay attention to anyone else. But Yi Chen was not an ordinary person. He was the only one in the entire Wanmu Mountain divine nation who could influence the mysterious Star Luo God Ring on her. So naturally, Long Li gave him significant attention. When entering 9 suns ancient land, Long Li had even specifically asked Lin Xiaowan for Yi Chen's name. Seeing Yi Chen again now, a great surge of emotions unavoidably stirred within her. Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng had been fixated on Long Li's stunning face since they saw her. When they noticed that Long Li paid no mind to them, the three had already grown accustomed to it and found nothing unexpected. But they also remained indifferent when Long Li's gaze moved to others, knowing well that with her cold temperament, she wouldn't take any interest in them either. What completely surprised the three was the moment they saw Long Li's gaze settle upon Yi-chan and remain still. Explore stories on novel.com. In fact, she lingered on him for much longer than on the three of them combined, without even shifting her gaze away. They had never seen Long Li pay such close attention to any male warrior before. Even when they noticed a trace of imperceptible fluctuation in Long Li's beautiful eyes, all three felt as though their hearts had been hammered. The divine maiden they adored beyond measure, Long Li, was showing ripples in her eyes because of Yi-chan. Both Yang Yun and Qin Feng were no ordinary warriors. They immediately perceived that Long Li had an inexplicable focus on Yi-chan. Although they knew this attention might not involve any romantic feelings, it still filled Yang Yun and Qin Feng with intense jealousy. Their beloved divine maiden was paying attention to Yi-chan instead of them, and of course they were envious. Especially Qin Feng, who normally held Yi-chan in contempt and even harbored thoughts of killing him, didn't expect that Long Li, who wouldn't normally glance at him twice, would pay such attention to Yi-chan. This filled Qin Feng with a mixture of jealousy and hatred toward Yi-chan. At this moment, Long Li, after initially being startled by the sight of Yi-chan, gained her composure. Her eyes left Yi-chan, glanced over Mu Ling and the others, and then turned toward the flame-encircled passageway. But Long Li's unusual attention to Yi-chan had not only been noticed by Yang Yun, Yang Yan, and Qin Feng but also by Zhu Qianqian, Zhu Qingqing, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi who stood by her. Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing gave Yi-chan a peculiar look, also not expecting their sister Long Li to pay such attention to a four tribulations true god. Mu Ling and Mu Xiao, as well as Hong Ming and Hong Yi, all silently exclaimed in admiration. Yi-chan is truly extraordinary. Even meeting Long Li, she too has noticed him. I've never heard of Long Li paying such close attention to any male warrior before. Little did Yi-chan know that because of Long Li's attention to him, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi held him in even higher esteem and respect. Yi-chan knew why Long Li took notice of him. It was because he paid equally close attention to her. For Long Li was the only one in Wanmu Mountain Divine Nation who could invoke the Stars Tower inside him. Chapter 706- Bottomless Fire Cave and Extreme Heavens Test. Yi-chan's gaze turned toward Long Li. At this moment, after sizing up the fire pathway, Long Li seemed to have discovered something and directly walked toward a spot beside the pathway. Then, with a flick of her small hand, a large swath of rolling flames on the fire pathway was extinguished. Seeing this action, Yi-chan couldn't help but draw a sharp breath. This 16-year-old young girl, Long Li, truly deserved to be the first prodigy of the younger generation in the Wandering Spirit's divine kingdom, truly living up to the reputation of being a powerful young girl who could contend with heavenly divine venerables even at the God King realm. She actually managed to extinguish these terrifying flames. These flames were too much for Yi-chan to bear, let alone the other God Kings present in the area, yet Long Li seemed unaffected and could even extinguish them. This just showed how terrifying Long Li's strength was. It was very likely that all the people present combined were no match for Long Li. Yi-chan noticed that after Long Li extinguished that patch of flames, a blue flame marked the size of a human head appeared on the wall of the passage. Yi-chan examined this blue flame mark and felt it was like a mysterious array engraving. Unfortunately, Yi-chan had only cultivated the first 3 volumes of the 9 volumes of Formation Array. He had not obtained the Array Technique secret tome for the latter volumes, and had not yet cultivated them. Otherwise, he might have been able to discern something from these blue flame array engravings. What is that? At this time, Yang Yun, Yang Yan, Qin Feng, Hong Ming, Hong Yi, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Zhu Qianqian, and Zhu Qingqing, the 9 God Kings, also noticed Long Li's actions and discovered the blue flame mark that became visible on the passageway wall after the flames were extinguished. However, these God Kings were not as insightful as Yi-chan. While Yi-chan could tell this was a mysterious array engraving, These god kings had no clue what the blue mark represented. At this moment, after examining the blue flame mark the size of a human head for a dozen breaths, Long Li's beautiful eyes shone brightly, and she walked a few steps diagonally down toward another spot, where she stopped. Seeing Long Li's movements, the surrounding god kings were somewhat puzzled. Whether it was Yang Yun and Yang Yen or Mu Ling and Mu Shao, these god kings guessed that Long Li must have discovered some secret of the fire cave and was investigating something. Of course, they dared not disturb Long Li's exploration and quietly waited on one side, observing her every move. Yi Chen's gaze also followed Long Li. This 16-year-old young girl, whose height reached only Yi Chen's shoulders and whose figure had not yet fully matured, possessed skin as pure as fresh snow, unspeakably beautiful, and yet was incredibly formidable. This made Yi Chen take a few more glances at the young girl's face. Yi Chen noticed that Long Li's face also showed a serious expression as her bright and clear eyes seriously observed the fire pathway wall, as if searching for something. Suddenly, as a flame on the fire pathway wall flared up, Long Li reached out swiftly and grabbed it, actually pulling the flame up by itself. This flame, as if it were a tangible object, was pulled out from the wall by Long Li and dissipated into nothingness. At that moment, another blue flame mark the size of a human head was revealed on the wall. This second blue flame mark, roughly the same size as the first one Long Li discovered, but with drastically different patterns within it. The second blue flame mark, seemingly more profound and with a more intricate pattern, was obviously more mysterious than the first. Two flame marks now. Perhaps these marks contain the secrets of the fire cave. Now, seeing Long Li uncover two flame marks in succession, the 9 god kings next to her started to catch on as well. Yi Chen, however, narrowed his eyes at the sight of this second flame mark. Although he couldn't discern the specific formation of the blue flame mark, he could see that with the revelation of this second mark, the whole array seemed to be gradually coming together. An additional flame mark unearthed by Long Li would probably activate the mysterious array hidden in the marks. This made Yi Chen look at Long Li with even greater solemnity. It seems Long Li has also cultivated formation techniques and has deeper accomplishments in it than I do. It seems that to unravel the secrets of the bottomless fire cave, we really might have to rely on Long Li. At this moment, Long Li, who was being watched by Yi Chen and the 9 great god kings, glanced briefly at the second blue flame mark before heading diagonally downward into a deeper place, taking a dozen steps. Long Li had truly delved deep into the fire cave. Where Long Li stood at this moment, the terrifying temperature of the flames would probably cause the 9 great god kings to struggle even if they could stand there. As for Yi Chen, even with the star blue divine garment, he wasn't sure if he could reach that place. Yet there stood Long Li, appearing comfortably amidst the flames, as if her movement through this fire cave was as swift as her actions, which had now become much quicker. It seemed that after discovering 2 blue flame markings in succession, Long Li truly grasped the key to this place and had a clear idea of what to do next. With the pinch of her delicate fingers, a radiant white jade stone suddenly flew out from her body. This jade stone resembled a pendant. As it flew out, the stone, driven by Long Li, soared toward a spot on the wall of the fire channel. When the pristine white jade stone touched the wall of the fire channel, what appeared to be nothing more than a palm-sized, ordinary white pendant emitted an incredibly fearsome divine white light. This divine white light, bearing unimaginable majestic power, instantly absorbed a vast expanse of terrifying flames into the stone. These flames, which could probably be easily burned by many superior beings in the God King realm, were now effortlessly captured by Long Li. At this time, the 9 God Kings and Yi Chen could hardly pay attention to the miraculous jade stone summoned by Long Li. They, along with Long Li, all fixed their eyes on the spot where the flames had been absorbed from the channel wall. Upon closer inspection, Yi Chen and the others, along with Long Li, saw yet another head-sized blue flame marking emerge on the wall of the channel. The third blue flame marking. Now, 3 blue flame markings had appeared at 3 different spots along the downward stretch of the bottomless fire cave. Then something astonishing happened. After the appearance of the third blue flame marking, the markings on it suddenly lit up one by one until the entire third marking became brilliantly translucent. As this third blue flame marking turned translucent, the previous two markings also lit up one after the other. In the end, all three blue flame markings were emitting a mysterious blue glow within this expanse of scarlet flames in the fire channel. What followed was even more shocking. After all three blue flame markings were lit, they shockingly detached from the channel wall and floated into the void. Eventually, all three blue flame markings converged at a central point between them, merging together in a strange and intertwined rotation. In an instant, the three blue flame markings constructed a four-sided, luminous blue array comprised of flowing light. Atop this four-sided mystical array, blue characters fluttered and fiercely struck the adjacent wall of flames. When these blue characters touched the wall of flames, the blazing scarlet fire there extinguished in patches, revealing a blue character. In the end, as the four-sided mystical array continuously ejected characters, tens of thousands of tiny characters formed on the entire wall of the fire channel. Yichun swept his eyes across the wall and saw the words bottomless fire cave, method of fire control, and extreme heaven inheritance. And when Yichun looked closely at the wall, after reviewing each of the tens of thousands of tiny characters, a deep shock surged in his eyes. Through these characters, Yichun finally understood what this place truly was, a realm known as the Bottomless Fire Cave. Yichun also understood the reason for this realm's existence. As Xiaojiu had previously speculated, hidden deep underground, at the profound depths of the Bottomless Fire Cave, there indeed was an extreme heavenly object, a clump of terrifyingly potent fire, the blue extreme ice flame, and these characters also told of a special method of fire control. Only by learning this method could one withstand the terrifying flames of the fire channel and continue downwards. Furthermore, as one moved downward, they could discover deeper layers of the method of fire control, which would help in advancing into the deeper reaches of the bottomless fire cave. And only by mastering the entire set of the method of fire control, hidden within the fire channel, could one truly enter the place where the extreme heavenly object, blue extreme ice flame, was concealed and obtain it. The entire process of learning the method of fire control was the extreme heaven inheritance. And only by fully completing the extreme heaven inheritance and passing the trials of the method of fire control, could one ultimately acquire the most precious, blue extreme ice flame, an extreme heavenly object, something that would even make beings of the sovereign realm covet. Who wouldn't want such a thing? Yichun, reminded by Xiaojiu, had already guessed at the presence of an extreme heavenly object here and was incredibly astonished. Not to mention the other god kings. Not only were people like Yang Yun and Yang Yan already breathing heavily in eagerness, but Mu Ling and Mu Xiao also greatly desired the blue extreme ice flame. The text explained that the extreme heavenly object possessed a spirit communication attribute, granting all those drawn into its trial the right to cultivate the method of fire control and the chance to attempt to obtain this extreme heavenly object. Experience tales at novelbin.com. If anyone tried to prevent others from cultivating the method of fire control, aiming to monopolize the extreme heavenly object for themselves, the spirit-communicating extreme heavenly object would immediately repel the one intending to claim it exclusively. This explanation set everyone's heart racing. It meant they all had a chance to obtain this extreme heavenly object. It was now a question of who could truly master the entire method of fire control. Chapter 707-. Vying to be first and fearing to be last. The only ones in the arena who were not surprised by the appearance of the blue extreme ice flame within the bottomless fire cave. The extreme heavenly item were Long Li, Zhu Qianqian, and Zhu Qingqing. These three were already privy to the matter of the blue extreme ice flame. It was precisely because they had previously traversed the first 8 trials that they led everyone to this 9th trial with the blue extreme ice flame inside the bottomless fire cave. At this moment, rather than being surprised, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing felt a sense of urgency. They were tasked with assisting Long Li in obtaining the blue extreme ice flame. However, now others had become involved. Even though they were fully confident in Long Li's strength and talent, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing didn't wish to see others compete with Long Li for the blue extreme ice flame. Sister Long Li, what should we do? These small characters on the wall have revealed everything about the blue extreme ice flame. Now, everyone can join in the competition for the blue extreme ice flame. It's a pity that these small characters state we cannot interfere with others competing for the blue extreme ice flame, or will be kicked out of the bottomless fire cave. Otherwise, if Sister Long Li made a move, she could just kick everyone else out and cultivate the method of fire control herself. Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing grumbled and transmitted their words to Long Li. The young girl Long Li heard their words but simply shook her head and smiled. Even if there wasn't this rule about not interfering with others competing for the blue extreme ice flame, I wouldn't consider kicking these people out, she said. The extreme heavenly item is something that belongs to those with destiny. If I deliberately kicked the others out, it would show that I'm taking a lower stance, that I fear the competition, and that I lack confidence in myself. A contest in cultivating the method of fire control? I, Long Li, have never lost to anyone since I was young. Long Li smiled gently, thinking to herself. As the most adored youth of the Wanmu divine nation, Long Li truly did not care about others competing with her for the blue extreme ice flame. Since the blue extreme ice flame had drawn everyone here, Long Li was also confident about competing with everyone present. However, some people did not share the same thoughts. After seeing the small characters describing the extreme heavenly item, the blue extreme ice flame, Yang Yun, Yang Yan, and Qin Feng instantly directed their gazes toward Yichan, Mu Ling, and Mu Xiao. Neither of the three wanted others to compete with them for the blue extreme ice flame. Even with Long Li present, they had almost no hope of surpassing her. But they were even less willing to let Yichan, Mu Ling, and Mu Xiao compete for it, and they didn't want to give these three the chance to cultivate the method of fire control either. If it weren't for the rules stated by the small characters, perhaps Qin Feng and the others would have joined forces to kick out the weaker individuals first. Especially Qin Feng. His jealousy and enmity toward Yichan had spiked due to Long Li's attention to him. Seeing that Yichan also had the opportunity to cultivate the method of fire control and compete for the blue extreme ice flame, Qin Feng was especially displeased. Humph, this mere four tribulations true god has had such luck to be able to come here with Mu Ling and Mu Xiao and gain this opportunity, he thought. It's really like heaven has no eyes. Angrily, Qin Feng could only console himself. Humph, what can a four tribulations true god possibly know? How experienced can he be? Even if Mu Ling and Mu Xiao praised him to the heavens before, he's still just a four tribulations true god. According to these small characters, one must progress layer by layer, cultivating all 22 layers of the method of fire control, in order to withstand the extreme heavenly trial and finally obtain the blue extreme ice flame. If one fails to pass these tests, even if they have learned the initial layers of the method of fire control, the insights gained will be erased upon being transported out of here. Giving him this chance is also futile. I fear this kid won't even be able to learn the first layer of the method of fire control. I want to see how embarrassed he will be, being the weakest among so many. Qin Feng even envisioned the scenario where Yichan would face a humiliating defeat before Long Li, while he himself would shine splendidly in front of her. Although Qin Feng wasn't sure he could learn all 22 layers of the method of fire control, he was confident that he would be stronger than Yichan and even many other people present. Kid, just wait to be disgraced. Qin Feng looked at Yichan, wanting to see how nervous he was facing the upcoming method of fire control cultivation. What he saw, however, was Yichan already sitting cross-legged on the ground, beginning his cultivation with his eyes closed. Humph, just putting on an act. Qin Feng scoffed, sat down cross-legged, and started to cultivate according to the first layer of the method of fire control, as described by the small characters on the wall. Qin Feng's mental state was unknown to the others, and nobody cared, because at this moment, others harboring their own thoughts also sat down one after another to start their cultivation. Everyone had the opportunity to cultivate the method of fire control. Everyone had a chance to obtain the extreme heavenly item, the blue extreme ice flame. They naturally wanted to cultivate as quickly as possible and complete the extreme heavenly trial. Dozens of breaths later, everyone in the arena had begun their cultivation while sitting cross-legged. The 10 mighty god kings, along with Yi-chan, the 4 tribulations true god, 11 in total, had all commenced their cultivation. As they closed their eyes to cultivate, they immersed themselves in the mysterious intricacies of the method of fire control first layer. They had no idea how much time had passed. It was only when a sudden loud noise jolted them awake from their cultivation. Then they discovered that Long Li, who had been sitting, had already stood up. With Long Li's rise, a blue symbol flew directly from the tetrahedral array formed by the fusion of 3 flame marks of the size of a human head and landed on her body. At the same time, engraved within the tetrahedral array was the numeral 1. Seeing the blue symbol flying toward Long Li, everyone was startled. It signified, unmistakably, the aspect described in the fine print, the successful comprehension of the method of fire control first layer. This indicated that Long Li had completed the first layer's cultivation of the method of fire control, and now possessed the ability to proceed farther. After standing up, Long Li nodded to Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, who were watching her with excitement, and after casting a meaningful glance at Yi-chan, she continued towards the passage below. Junior sister Long Li is truly the most formidable. Seeing Long Li progress forward, Yang Yunyang, Hao and Qin Feng all took a deep breath. The 3 admirers of Long Li, who were also among the top ranks on the God King chart of the 9 Great God Institutes, were unwilling to be outdone. They simultaneously thought, "We may not be as talented as junior sister Long Li, but we must become the second person to complete the method of fire control first layer." The 3 of them promptly closed their eyes and resumed their contemplation. As for the others, witnessing Long Li's continued advancement instilled them with a mix of respect and shock, and they too closed their eyes and carried on with their practice. As for Yi-chan, upon opening his eyes and seeing that Long Li had completed the first layer of the method of fire control, he immediately closed his eyes again. What the others didn't know was that Yi-chan had also completed the first layer's practice. He just had yet to activate the successfully cultivated symbol according to the spell of the first layer of the method of fire control. This method of fire control requires more layers of practice before properly understanding the secrets hidden within. Just contemplating the first layer doesn't hold much significance. Now that Long Li has succeeded, I cannot lag behind. Time to activate the successfully cultivated symbol. With his eyes closed, Yi-chan followed the guideline provided by the first layer's spell of the method of fire control and directly activated the symbol. In just over a dozen breaths, as the others had just closed their eyes and Yang Yunyang, Hao and Qin Feng had just resolved to compete for the completion of the method of fire control first layer, they all heard another loud noise. At that sound, they knew another person had succeeded in completing the method of fire control first layer. Who is it? How could someone cultivate so quickly? Junior sister Long Li has just succeeded. Since neither Yang Yunyang, Hao nor Qin Feng had completed their cultivation, naturally, they panicked and couldn't help but look at the other 2. However, they too saw the disbelief on the others' faces. It's not them. Then who is it? Yang Yunyang, Hao and Qin Feng hastily looked towards the tetrahedral array, only to see a blue symbol flying out of it towards a corner of the passage. Looking towards that corner, Yang Yunyang, Hao and Qin Feng saw a young man standing up. The blue symbol, representing the completion of the method of fire control first layer, flew straight to this young man. Is it him? Yang Yunyang, Hao exclaimed in disbelief. Stay connected via Novelbin. Calm. And Qin Feng stood there, completely astonished. For they had seen that this standing young man was the very 4 tribulations true God that they had completely underestimated. It was Yi-chan. Chapter 708, Side by Side. How is it possible? How can this kid comprehend the method of fire control faster than me on the first layer? Qin Feng's heart was simply overturned by towering waves. He would accept that Long Li had a higher comprehension power than him, and he had also considered the possibility that Yang Yun and Yang Yan might surpass him. But no matter what, Qin Feng could never have imagined that Yi-chan, the one he had had a dispute with earlier, would be the second person to complete the first layer of the method of fire control after Longley. It was this four tribulations true god whom he did not take seriously at all. When he saw Yi Chun stand up, with the blue imprint that signified the completion of the first layer of method of fire control, falling upon his body, when he saw that the number representing those who had completed the first layer on the four-way body-shaped array had changed to 2, Qin Feng had no choice but to believe it all. Yi Chun, in terms of comprehension power, was truly stronger than him. Qin Feng only felt his face burning, as if he had been slapped. He thought of the way he had previously looked down on Yi Chun, but now the situation made him realize perhaps Mu Ling and Mu Xiao hadn't spoken wrongly. This young for tribulation's true god indeed possessed exceptional traits that he could not compare with. While Qin Feng was dealing with his complex and inexplicable feelings, others' gazes toward Yi Chun were also entirely shaken. Not to mention the incredulous expressions of Yang Yun and Yang Yen. Just the glances thrown Yi Chen's way by Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, who had followed Long Li to the heaven-reaching ancient tree, were no longer ordinary. Yi Chun completing the first layer of the method of fire control comprehension so quickly was almost comparable to Long Li, which certainly made the two women recognize Yi Chen's strong comprehension power. Thinking back to how Long Li's gaze had lingered on Yi Chun for a long time, the two women muttered to themselves, "No wonder Sister Long Li took notice of this young man. This youth indeed has an impressive ability. It seems Sister Long Li had already discovered his extraordinariness. Such a talented youth. Why have I never heard of him before? Where did he come from?" On the other side, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi all stood up with expressions that mixed surprise and shock. They too hadn't expected Yi Chun to be the second one to complete the cultivation. Mu Ling directly smiled and said to Yi Chun, "Congratulations, Yi Chen, for being the first to complete the first layer of method of fire control. Please quickly continue to progress to cultivate the second layer." Next to her, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi were also nodding repeatedly. Yes, that extreme heavenly object, blue extreme ice flame. Only those with sufficient talent can obtain it by cultivating all 22 layers of the method of fire control. Yi Chen, you have completed the first layer so quickly. It seems that you have the greatest chance of competing with Long Li for the blue extreme ice flame. There's no need for further delay. Continue your cultivation. We too must hasten our practice, hoping to catch up with you. Hearing the words of Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi, Yi Chen smiled and nodded to them. Then I'll take the lead. My fellow cultivators, continue your cultivation. The comprehension of the method of fire control can only be cultivated individually and cannot be taught to each other, otherwise, it would violate the rules of the extreme heaven test. Hence, Yi Chun was unable to help Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, and the others. They could only rely on their own realization. After exchanging a few words with Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi, Yi Chen's gaze then took in the others like Zhu Qianqian, Zhu Qingqing, Yang Yen, Yang Yun, Qin Feng, and the rest. Yi Chun wasn't very familiar with Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, who followed Long Li. Seeing the two women's eyes shocked as they looked at him, he simply smiled and nodded to them. As for Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng, Yi Chun merely glanced over without a hint of emotion in his demeanor. Then, Yi Chun also made his way further down to the deeper parts of the bottomless fire cave. Seeing Yi Chun as if ignoring his own gaze, Qin Feng felt choked up with frustration. He clenched his fists tightly and bitterly thought to himself, "This kid, so arrogant. It's just completing the first layer of method of fire control before me. Huh? Humph. I will catch up with you soon and surpass you." After making up his mind, Qin Feng resumed his seated position to comprehend the first layer of the method of fire control, but his mood was difficult to calm for a long time. Obviously, the fact that Yi Chun completed cultivation before him was far too big a blow to handle. Meanwhile, Yang Yun and Yang Yen, having seen Yi Chun follow Long Li deeper into the bottomless fire cave, were mulling over something with flickering eyes. It wasn't long after that the two of them also sat down to continue their cultivation. On another side, Hong Man, Hong Yi, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, and Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing were all continuing with their comprehension. And after a while, finally, the third person to complete the cultivation stood up. This third person was none other than Yang Yun, who ranked second only to Long Li on the God King list from the 9 major divine institutes. Who completed their cultivation afterward and continued moving forward did not concern Yi Chun. As soon as he left his previous cultivation spot, he proceeded towards even deeper parts of the bottomless fire cave. Originally, given Yi Chen's status as a 4 tribulations true god, even if his combat power was strong, he wouldn't be able to move much further through these terrifying flames. Even with the protection of the star blue divine garment, it wouldn't be possible. After all, Yi Chen's combat power was now clearly inferior to the top 10 god kings present. And the star blue divine garment, not yet fully transformed into an extreme heavenly object, could only withstand attacks at the level of a god king, and was not of much use in a genuine polar sky level test. However, having learned the first layer of the method of fire control, Yi Chun could now continue in the bottomless fire cave for at least a few thousand kilometers. The method of fire control spoke of how to manipulate fire, how to harness the might of flames. After mastering all 22 layers of the true method of fire control, one could even control flames of the polar heaven level. Polar heaven level flames, those were typically the domain of powerful beings within the sovereign realm, capable of effortlessly annihilating countless divine venerables. Even though Yi Chen had not yet mastered all 22 layers of the method of fire control, having learned just the first layer allowed him to move forward with ease in the bottomless fire cave. As he advanced, Yi Chun used the spell from the method of fire control, and with a fierce grab towards the flames encircling the passageway and its center within the bottomless fire cave, caused them to scatter immediately, not daring to come close to Yi Chun in the slightest. Yi Chun then strode forward confidently. After traveling roughly over 2,000 meters and delving deeply into the bottomless fire cave, Yi Chun saw the small figure of Long Li ahead of him. At that moment, Long Li stood not far below in the passageway, scrutinizing a cubic-shaped array that had emerged from the ground, along with new tiny characters sparked into existence by the array. Clearly, the place where Long Li stood was where the second layer of the method of fire control was recorded. Long Li had just arrived at this realm. According to the guidance of the first layer of the method of fire control, she went directly to this place, where the new cubic-shaped array and the second layer spells promptly appeared. Experience new tales on Novelbin. Calm. It seemed that the cultivation of the method of fire control was a true test. Unlike before, there was no need to seek out the blue flame mark to activate the array and unlock the spell. The spell was already there. Whether one could learn it depended on individual skill. Just as Long Li was seeing the spells, she heard someone approaching and turned to look back. Long Li's gaze fell upon Yi Chun. Yi Chun, is that you? At this time, in this particular passageway, only Long Li and Yi Chun were present. Inevitably, Long Li couldn't help but call out upon seeing Yi Chun. Long Li did not expect that the young man she had been keeping an eye on would so quickly complete his cultivation and catch up to her. Hearing Long Li call out his name, Yi Chun also felt somewhat surprised. Then, with the knowledge that Long Li could influence his star's tower, Yi Chen's mind and spirit stirred slightly. Long Li, do you know me? Long Li's beautiful eyes slightly widened in surprise. She couldn't very well say that she had been keeping her eye on Yi Chun because he could stimulate her star Luo God ring. And to mention another reason for her attention toward Yi Chun, it was even more unlikely, given her naturally aloof demeanor. Long Li could only give Yi Chun a shy smile. Yi Chun, you've made it this far. As a 4 tribulations true god, of course, I know you. Hearing Long Li's words, Yi Chun knew that the young girl did not speak the complete truth. Of course, it was not easy for Yi Chun to directly inquire about Long Li's ability to influence the star's tower, as he and Long Li were not well acquainted yet. In the end, the two merely exchanged glances and laughed awkwardly, then turned their eyes towards the second layer of the method of fire control on the wall. Certainly, although they only exchanged a glance and a bashful smile, had their interaction been seen by countless admirers of Long Li at the Supreme Divine Institute or across the 9 major divine institutes, those countless admirers of Long Li would surely be green with envy towards Yi Chun. After all, they had never seen Long Li share such a look and smile with any other martial artist. Once the two of them had read the second layer of the method of fire control, they both sat down cross-legged and began cultivating the new spells. By this time, the pair had ventured deeply into the bottomless fire cave. Without relying on the method of fire control, even Long Li could not advance much further. As for Yi Chen, without the support of a more powerful method of fire control, it would be impossible to continue advancing towards the territory of the third layer of the method of fire control. Both of them, if they wished to reach the place where the blue extreme ice flame resided, needed to successfully cultivate this second layer first. Of course, despite the wall's second layer of the method of fire control being extremely challenging to comprehend, neither Yi Chen nor Long Li were overly concerned. Both of them were far from ordinary. Long Li ranked as the foremost heavens chosen among the younger generation of the entire mountain divine nation, a mighty young woman who reached the upper god king at just 16. And Yi Chen, although not as well known in the divine kingdom as Long Li, was equally remarkable. In the lower realm, Yi Chen had risen with unparalleled speed, a peerless genius seen once in tens of thousands of years. After arriving in the divine kingdom, he continued to shine with brilliance, attracting the attention of powers like the City Lord of Divine City, as well as younger members of influential families like Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi. Having successfully cultivated the primordial star scripture, Yi Chen was certainly up to the challenge of this polar heaven-level cultivation technique. Yi Chen's comprehension power was no less formidable when facing the spells of the method of fire control. After approximately the time it takes to drink 2 cups of tea, Yi Chen and Long Li, almost simultaneously, completed their cultivation and rose to their feet. Chapter 709-The Final Test. As both of them stood up at the same time, the cubic formation in the second training passage directly emanated 2 blue marks, which flew down onto Yi Chen and Long Li. Yi Chen and Long Li had both completed the second level of the method of fire control at the same time. Such a situation, even Yi Chen and Long Li themselves hadn't expected. Yi Chen was rather calm about it. He knew Long Li was the top talent of the younger generation in the divine kingdom of the Wanmu Mountain, so her fast cultivation speed was not a surprise to him. But Long Li was once again surprised because of Yi Chen. It seems that fellow Taoist Yi Chen is even more formidable than I imagined, Long Li said to Yi Chen with a gentle smile. Looking at this petite girl whose height only reached his shoulders and who was younger than himself, praising him, Yi Chen smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Long Li is very impressive too." The two who were originally strangers, one whose fame echoed throughout the entire divine kingdom of Wanmu Mountain, and the other a youth who had just arrived in the divine kingdom. The two, who had almost no intersection, were now brought together by the extreme test of the blue extreme ice flame. And their contention, surprisingly, neither of them conceded to the other. Seeing Yi Chen's relaxed demeanor, Long Li's beautiful eyes stirred. Most male martial artists, when speaking to her, didn't have this kind of calm. Either they were mesmerized by her stunning beauty, or they were in awe of her power. Yi Chen was the first to speak to her as an equal. Long Li could tell that the strength inside this youth seemed not to be the least bit weaker than hers. Moreover, with Yi Chen able to activate her Star Luo God Ring, Long Li also had the thought of having a good competition with him. Fellow Taoist Yi Chen, we completed the second layer of the method of fire control in this second training place at the same time. Next, let's see who can complete the third layer of the method of fire control first, shall we? Long Li actually voiced the idea of a competition to Yi Chen. If the countless martial artists of the Supreme Divine Institute knew about this scene, countless jaws would drop in astonishment. They had never heard of Long Li being convinced by anyone or wanting to compete with anyone. If those powerful sovereigns in the Supreme Divine Institute knew about this, they would probably pay great attention to Yi Chen. And it was very likely they would preemptively take Yi Chen into the institute for training. After all, the ones who could match Long Li among the Divine Kingdom's younger generation were very few. A competition? Hearing Long Li's proposal to compete in cultivating the third layer, Yi Chen was slightly taken aback. Yi Chen hadn't expected this young girl, known for her cool demeanor, to suggest a competition with him. However, Yi Chen didn't refuse. "All right, let's have a competition then," After exchanging a glance, they walked side by side towards the deeper levels of the bottomless fire cave. Just as they exchanged a glance and took their first steps, Yang Yun, who had just completed the first layer of the method of fire control behind them, was rushing towards the second training area. Yang Yun was thinking of hurrying to the second training place to cultivate, hoping to surpass Yi Chun. But Yang Yun couldn't have imagined that upon his arrival at the second training area, he would see Yi Chun and Long Li sharing a smile and moving forward shoulder to shoulder. When he saw that smile from Long Li, which made heaven and earth pale in comparison, directed at Yi Chun, when he saw Long Li and Yi Chun walking side by side, Yang Yun felt as if his heart was being smashed by a hammer, filled with an immense sense of sourness. The entire Supreme Divine Institute knew of his admiration for Long Li, but he had never seen Long Li smile at him like that. Now, Long Li showing such a smile to Yi Chun was a scene Yang Yun had never witnessed before. They both have completed the second layer of the method of fire control? I haven't even started the second layer, and they've already finished cultivating? Are they going to cultivate the third layer of the method of fire control together now? Yang Yun could no longer suppress the jealousy he had toward Yi Chun, which he had previously managed to keep under control, unlike Qin Feng's obvious display. But now, Yang Yun had a bad feeling that this Four Tribulations true god, whom he originally didn't care about at all, could be his greatest rival in pursuing Long Li. Discover hidden tales at novelbin.com. Yang Yun even had malicious thoughts welling up inside. If he truly couldn't compete with Yi Chun, he didn't mind. He would kill Yi Chun in advance to remove one competitor. After all, Long Li's smile towards Yi Chun was a threat too great for him to ignore. As evil thoughts stirred in Yang Yun's heart, Yi Chun and Long Li walking shoulder to shoulder towards the deeper parts of the bottomless fire cave seemed to sense something and simultaneously turned to look back. Seeing the resentment in Yang Yun's eyes that he couldn't retract in time, Yi Chun also shook his head with a smile. He knew that he might have offended Yang Yun again. Of course, Yi Chun had no such intentions towards Long Li. His heart was only with Jiang Yao. But he couldn't ensure that Yang Yun wasn't harboring mistaken ideas. Beauty is a curse. I suppose this is what they are talking about, Yi Chun mused with an inward chuckle. However, he certainly wasn't going to explain anything to Yang Yun just because of his jealous gaze. The free-spirited Yi Chun wasn't so concerned about Yang Yun's feelings. Long Li also seemed to have perceived something, but her naturally cool temperament didn't allow her to care about these matters. She was still very young, only 16 years old. Though her combat prowess was extraordinary, she had never been involved in any matters between men and women. However, thinking that it was her proposal to compete with Yi Chun that had led them to travel together, which might bring trouble to Yi Chun, Long Li transmitted her voice to Yi Chun in a low tone. Fellow Taoist Yi Chun, I apologize. Would you like me to? Seeing that Long Li was about to say something more, Yi Chun raised his hand to stop her words. Let's go. The still most important to cultivate. The method of fire control has a total of 22 levels, and we don't have that much time to care about what others think. Long Li nodded and continued to move forward with Yi Chun. Long Li didn't care about these trivial matters in the first place. If it weren't for Yi Chun, she might not even have voiced her concern. As for Yi Chun, he knew that it was useless to explain too much to people like Yang Yun or that Qin Feng. The only way not to fear those with such dark thoughts was to truly elevate one's strength. Yi Chun certainly wasn't going to waste time on this. Seeing Long Li and Yi Chun whispering to each other and then walking away shoulder to shoulder, Yang Yun's jealousy blazed even more fiercely. After Long Li and Yi Chun had disappeared without a trace, he clenched his teeth viciously, his eyes dark, contemplating something unknown. At the very edge of the method of fire control, where the first layer was located, Qin Feng had just completed the cultivation of the first layer of the method of fire control and was standing up when a light screen suddenly appeared in the void. This light screen directly showed that Yi Chun and Long Li had passed through the second cultivation site and completed the cultivation of the second layer of the method of fire control. They were heading towards the third layer of cultivation deep in the bottomless fire cave. When Qin Feng saw this, the joy he felt from just completing the first layer of the method of fire control instantly vanished, and he couldn't believe what he exclaimed. How is it possible? This kid has finished the second layer of cultivation too. And this time, with junior sister Long Li at the same time. And the remaining cultivators like Mu Ling and Mu Xiao were also agape, exclaiming in amazement, My heavens! This time, fellow Taoist Yi Chun is on par with fellow Taoist Long Li? They are both heading to the third layer of the method of fire control cultivation site deeper down? We haven't even finished cultivating the first layer, and they're going to the third? Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, on the other hand, covered their mouths in shock. Seeing Yi Chen follow after Long Li in cultivation had already surprised the two women. This time, seeing Yi Chen and Long Li advancing together further shocked them to the core. A single instance of leading didn't prove much. But completing the cultivation so quickly for 2 consecutive times made the women realize that this 4 tribulations true God youth might really be able to compete with their incredibly talented sister. Long Li. It was the first time the two women felt pressure. At this rate, the outcome of the struggle for the blue extreme ice flame really couldn't be predicted. Let's keep looking down. In the end, Zhu Qianqian exhaled deeply, shook her head and said to herself, It's a competition of 22 layers after all. One really can't tell what the final result will be. No matter what, junior sister Long Li will probably make it to the end. But as for that youth, whether he can reach the end remains to be seen. If he does make it to the end, it would mean his comprehension skills are definitely not weaker than junior sister Long Li. Perhaps this youth shouldn't simply be considered a 4 tribulations true God, and it wouldn't be impossible for him to attract widespread attention in the divine kingdom in the future. Zhu Qianqian pondered as she looked down. The others also harbored the same thought. While they were cultivating on their own, they also paid attention to the progress of those leading like Yi Chen, Long Li, Yang Yun, and others. This challenge of the bottomless fire cave was quite unique, with each cultivation site announcing breakthroughs with a screen of divine consciousness. It was unclear whether the extremely perceptive blue extreme ice flame was trying to stimulate or encourage others by broadcasting everyone's progress. What happened next could only be described with the words unimaginable and shockingly inexplicable. The unimaginable part was that aside from Long Li, who continuously advanced, completing the method of fire control, and heading deeper into the bottomless fire cave with an ever-deepening comprehension of its techniques, the other 9 amongst the 10 God Kings had all come to a halt. Yang Yun, ranked second on the God King list of the 9 divine institutes, could progress no further beyond the 17th layer of the cultivation site for the method of fire control. As for Yang Yan, he only reached the 15th layer. Qin Feng, like Yang Yan, also managed to reach the 15th layer. Zhu Qingqing, Zhu Qianqian, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi, however, all stopped before the 13th layer, completely confounded by the increasingly difficult method of fire control. Eventually, these individuals spent an entire hour at their respective cultivation sites and, failing to fully comprehend their layers, were all transported back to the very first cultivation site. Moreover, the cubic formation broadcasted with divine consciousness that these individuals had failed the cultivation test and had lost the qualification to continue. For 9 out of the top 10 God Kings to be eliminated so early was indeed unimaginable. The shockingly inexplicable aspect was that there was still one person, like Long Li, who was continuing to advance. This person was none other than Yi Chen. The 9 eliminated God Kings, through the immensely perceptive messages of divine consciousness from the blue extreme ice flame, knew of Yi Chen and Long Li's cultivation progress even without seeing them. They were astounded to find that Yi Chen's performance was in no way inferior to Long Li's, with the two of them continuously competing neck and neck. At the 3rd layer, Yi Chen was ahead of Long Li. At the 4th layer, Long Li overtook Yi Chen again. Both had reached the 20th layer, equaling their scores up to that point. And now, with only the last 2 out of the 22 layers of the method of fire control to go, who among the 2 could truly make it to the end was something the eliminated 9 God Kings couldn't predict, nor did they dare to. Chapter 710-. Divine Stone, Fire Pond, Ice Flame. The topmost cultivation site. Having lost the qualification to continue cultivating and already eliminated from the extreme heaven test, the 9 divine kings were all seated cross-legged in this place. At this moment, These 9 divine kings stared at the square-shaped array, which from time to time transmitted divine sense, each with their own thoughts. Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi, the 4 divine kings who were relatively closer to Yi Chun, although slightly disappointed about their elimination, didn't take it too seriously. Originally, their strength was not among the strongest in the top 10 divine kings, and their venture to the 9 Suns' ancient land was more about gaining experience and meeting Long Li. Having participated in the Extreme Heaven test, alongside Long Li was satisfying enough for them. They had anticipated not making it to the end. The most shocking thing for these 4 at this moment was the miracle created by Yi Chun, whom they had just befriended. A 4 Tribulations true god, a warrior from the lower realm, was currently competing to the end alongside the first prodigy of the younger generation of the Divine Kingdom and Long Li, the first goddess from the Supreme Divine Institute. Even figures like Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng had been eliminated, yet he continued to persevere, and it seemed that he was on par with Long Li. How could this not shock the 4 of them enormously? Friend Yi Chun is simply incredible. Mu Ling communicated to Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi through transmission, full of wonder. Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi all nodded in agreement. After this journey in the 9 Suns' ancient land ends, we must invite friend Yi Chun to visit our 2 great houses in the southern region. I imagine the elders of our clans would be very delighted to meet such a talented youngster. Who would have thought that our trip to the 9 Suns' ancient land would yield such an invaluable gain, befriending such an impressive individual? Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi were a bit excited and agitated. At this point, Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng had completely sour expressions on their faces. On one hand, they hadn't expected that the method of fire control would be so difficult to comprehend, causing even them to be eliminated. What they had even less anticipated was that there was someone who was stronger than they were, and still persisted. This made Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng feel as though they had been slapped in the face. They were celebrities at the Supreme Divine Institute, but now, in the 9 Suns' ancient land, they had been surpassed by a mere 4 Tribulations true god, their faces slapped by this same minor deity, which was naturally humiliating for them. What annoyed Yang Yen and Qin Feng even more was the hint of information leaked by Yang Yun that this 4 Tribulations true god seemed to be remarkably valued by Long Li. Long Li had smiled lightly at Yi Chun, had spoken intimately with Yi Chun. They remembered that before the Extreme Heaven test had started. When Yi Chun met Long Li, she seemed to look at him a little differently. Jealousy blazed fiercely within Yang Yen and Qin Feng. Humph. Let that boy be proud for a moment. Though his comprehension is indeed strong, he is just a 4 Tribulations true god. Tall trees catch much wind, and I'll make him learn what happens if he doesn't stay modest. Qin Feng's killing intent towards Yi Chun had become utterly uncontrollable. He was eager to find a chance to kill Yi Chun immediately, and Yang Yan's eyes shimmered with a chill, pondering something or other. As for Yang Yun, after releasing the news that Long Li took a special interest in Yi Chun, he just sneered as he looked down at the bottomless fire cave. Yi Chun, I'm afraid this time, you will die a terrible death without me having to lift a finger. Qin Feng and Yang Yen are not the kind to easily quench their jealousy. Among the 9 eliminated divine kings, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing were the most concerned about who would obtain the blue extreme ice flame. Their thoughts were immensely conflicted. On one hand, they were in awe of Yi Chen's powerful performance, and thinking back to Yi Chen's composed demeanor, they now understood that this young man was truly formidable. What girl doesn't admire a hero? Especially for a genuine genius like Yi Chun, who could contend with Long Li. The 2 girls had never met anyone like him in the Divine Kingdom's northern region or within their own institute, the Taiqing Divine Institute. This even made the 2 young women feel an inexplicable emotion towards Yi Chun. But on the other hand, they could not forget about Long Li, whom they exceedingly cared for. Blue Extreme Ice Flame, this magical flame from the treasures of the heavens, was something they knew Long Li was desperate to obtain. Initially, both girls had believed that the Blue Extreme Ice Flame would undoubtedly be in Long Li's possession, only to find out that others had also been drawn into the competition for it. nor had they expected that a miraculous young man would emerge, capable of truly competing with Longley. They no longer knew whether they hoped for the miraculous young man to continue creating miracles, or if they wished for their sister Longley to get the blue extreme ice flame, as she desired. Let's hope it's Sister Longley who gets the blue extreme ice flame, in the end. That Yichun is formidable. He has already proven his capabilities. If there's a chance, we'll invite him to visit the northern region, to Dansha Valley. Thinking of this, the faces of the two young women even began to flush with embarrassment. While the 9 eliminated divine kings were each preoccupied with their thoughts, the square-shaped array before them suddenly transmitted another divine sense, reaching out to the 9 individuals in the midst of the field. This divine sense unexpectedly addressed the 9 people, noting that the last 2 remaining had both simultaneously breached the 21st training ground and had both completed the 21st level of the method of fire control training. The 2 were heading towards the 22nd layer of the training ground located at the very bottom of the bottomless fire cave. Upon hearing this news, Zhu Qianqian, Zhu Qingqing, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi all stood up with a whoosh. They of course knew the last 2 remaining were none other than Yichun and Longley. They hadn't expected that even at the end, Yichun and Longley were still closely following each other, still charging downwards without yielding the lead. Heavens! He actually completed the 21st layer of the method of fire control. Yichun and Longley have gone to the 22nd layer of the training ground. That's the last layer of the method of fire control. Doesn't this mean that the 2 of them are already heading towards the final realm? Perhaps that legendary extreme heaven item, the blue extreme ice flame, lies there. The last layer, whoever can train successfully, will be able to obtain the blue extreme ice flame. Zhu Qianqian, Zhu Qingqing, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi all grew extremely tense. They had no idea who between Longley and Yichun would succeed in the end. At the same time, they were filled with doubts. Continue your story on Novelbin. Calm. If both of them completed the last layer at the same time, then to whom would the blue extreme ice flame belong? At that moment, among the 9 divine kings, the ones who didn't care much about who obtained the blue extreme ice flame were Yang Yun, Yang Yan, and Qin Feng. To them, it was all the same whoever got it. In their hearts, they were already bent on killing Yichun. Even if Yichun obtained that extreme heaven item, the 3 coming from the forces of the sovereign realm might, they also knew that such objects were beyond Yichun's current realm and were hardly utilizable by him. It also did not affect their plans to kill Yichun in the slightest. The only reason they considered the blue extreme ice flame was that if Yichun indeed got it, they could consider taking possession of the item after they killed him. Although the rumors spoke of the true extreme heaven items as being incredibly sentient, once conquered, they would not accept a second master. Even if the owner died, the extreme heaven item would likewise perish. But if Yi Chen's realm was too low, and he hadn't truly conquered the blue extreme ice flame, then they might be able to claim it for themselves. Thinking of this made the 3 of them inwardly startled. They suddenly realized that unconsciously, they had no significant doubt that Yi Chun could obtain the blue extreme ice flame, competing with Longley. While the 9 eliminated divine kings had their own different thoughts, upon hearing that Yichun and Longley had simultaneously reached the final step of the extreme heaven test and both completed the 21st level of the method of fire control, thereby proceeding to the 22nd level. Looking towards the depths of the bottomless fire cave, tens of thousands of zhang below, one could see Yichun and Longley standing amidst a field of purple flames. At their current location in the realm, the terrible lethal power of the purple flames could easily slay an immortal divine sovereign. Were it not for the fact they both had trained in the method of fire control, specifically created to counter the lethal power of flames, even Longley would not have been able to reach this place. After standing up and receiving the 21st blue mark, signifying that both had passed the 21st stage of the method of fire control training, Longley and Yichun looked towards each other once again. Through the continuous training and competing, they had become very familiar with each other. Both were shocked by each other's powerful comprehension abilities. Especially Longley, whose usually cold expression had melted like snowflakes, looked at Yi-chan and took a deep breath before smiling and saying, "Fellow Yi-chan, only the last layer of the method of fire control remains to be trained. To be honest, I no longer feel confident in my heart now. You've truly surprised me. If you had been cultivating in the divine kingdom from the beginning, I'm afraid that by now, your achievements would be even stronger than mine." In the course of their rivalry, Long Li had learned that Yi-chan came from the lower realm. Hearing Long Li's words, Yi-chan smiled as well. "Fellow Long Li is only 16, 2 years younger than me. Even if I had been cultivating in the divine kingdom, reaching your level of combat strength would be extremely difficult. You are being too modest. The last layer of the method of fire control, I imagine in that realm, we might actually see the blue extreme ice flame. I too am curious to see what it looks like. As for which of us two can obtain the blue extreme ice flame, that will depend on our respective fortunes." Upon hearing Yi-chen's words, Long Li nodded. After exchanging glances, they both began to step forward, descending deeper into the bottomless fire cave. This time, as they walked down the slanted depth of the bottomless fire cave for about the time it took to brew 2 cups of tea, and even crossed a bridge burning with flames, they finally arrived at the 22nd layer of the method of fire control training ground. Upon reaching this place, both Yi-chan and Long Li felt a tremor in their hearts. They saw that the site they finally reached was no longer an endlessly downward extending corridor, but rather, they had arrived on a vast platform. The very bottom of the bottomless fire cave was actually an immensely huge platform. Even more wondrous was that this platform had 12 large divine stones burning with flames standing erect, and in the center of the platform, surrounded by the 12 colossal flames of the divine stones, was a small fire pond. Above the fire pond, in the empty space, floated a 3 feet long, brilliantly sparkling blue flame. The blue extreme ice flame. The moment they saw this flame, Yi-chan and Long Li knew that this was the most precious extreme heaven item, hidden within the bottomless fire cave. Chapter 711-Sky Melding Flame. Even while standing outside the 12 massive flame divine stones, looking through the divine stones at the blue extreme ice flame, floating above the fire pit, Yi-chan and Long Li both understood the strangeness and power of this blue extreme ice flame. Because they had not yet completed the 22nd level of the method of fire control's cultivation, they couldn't truly approach the blue extreme ice flame. Both could feel a bone-chilling cold emanating from the ground where they stood. Even the 12 massive flame divine stones and the terrifyingly hot fire pit, which Yi-chan and Long Li, having cultivated 21 levels of the method of fire control, could barely withstand, could not block out this piercing coldness. The incredibly hot flame divine stones and the fire pit were paradoxically the birthplace of the icy blue extreme ice flame, a marvel unparalleled. As Yi-chan and Long Li observed the blue extreme ice flame, it seemed to have a life of its own, drifting slowly as if it were appraising the two of them. At that moment, the 12 massive burning flame divine stones before Yi-chan and Long Li suddenly flashed with a mysterious light. Within the light, a series of characters began to appear on the 12 massive burning flame divine stones. These characters contained the spell for the 22nd level of method of fire control's cultivation. It was also the final level of the method of fire control that must be completed in order to collect the extreme heavenly object, blue extreme ice flame. Fellow Yi-chan, it's our last competition. Let's see who among us can be the first to complete the cultivation of this final level of the method of fire control. Long Li said with a smile to Yi-chan after they had reviewed the characters on the 12 flame divine stones. Yi-chan smiled in return. The further we progress in the extreme heaven test, the more I sense the magic of the extreme heavenly object. It is said that extreme heavenly objects born successfully possess high spirituality and can construct the extreme heaven test to select their master. I used to think it was just a legend, but now I see it's true. Now I'm all the more curious about why such extreme heavenly objects appear in the heavenly divine venerables domain, and even more curious about this blue extreme ice flame. Discover more content at novelbin.com. Only by obtaining the blue extreme ice flame can this mystery be unraveled. Fellow Long Li, I will hold nothing back in our competition. Upon hearing Yi-chen's words, Long Li also smiled gently, Yi-chun, I also want this extreme heavenly object, blue extreme ice flame, and I won't hold back either. However, if I get it and learn its secrets, I will tell you. The two exchanged a couple of jokes to relieve the tension of the imminent final level of cultivation they were about to undertake. Even though they were both extraordinarily powerful individuals, it was impossible not to feel nervous when facing the last level of the extreme heaven test. However, after their brief exchange of jokes, both became instantly composed. Almost simultaneously, they sat down outside the 12 flame divine stones. Boom! Boom! As the two began to cultivate, countless streaks of flames suddenly rose all over the platform, eventually forming into two massive flaming silhouettes that slowly revolved around them. These flaming silhouettes were a result of their powerful control over flames from completing the previous 21 levels of the method of fire control, causing the flames within the domain of this platform to react abnormally. And as they began cultivating the 22nd level of the method of fire control, the fiery silhouettes around them started to change rapidly. Sometimes, they transformed into towering, raging infernos shooting towards the sky, resembling massive flame divine mountains. Sometimes, they became a seething sea of fire. Occasionally, figures of flame spirit beasts emerged from the fiery silhouettes, roaring and shifting within the flames. After about the time it takes to brew a pot of tea had passed. Boom! With a sudden loud noise, from among the 12 burning flame divine stones, one closest to the two cultivators, a streak of firelight shot out and flew directly into the fiery silhouette outside Longli. The fiery silhouette around Longli suddenly became entirely different, adorned with ancient characters flowing upon it. This clearly indicated that Longli had successfully cultivated the first portion of the method of fire control's 22nd level spell, contained on one of the flame divine stones. It seems that Longli took the lead by one step. At that moment, after a streak of firelight flew to the fiery light shadow outside of Longli's body, the loud noise did not awaken Longli from his cultivation. Longli continued to keep his eyes closed, persisting in his cultivation. Meanwhile, Yi-chun also remained completely unaffected by Longli's slight head start in cultivation, his entire being still immersed in the practice. Then, another half a stick of incense's time passed. Suddenly, boom boom boom, 3 loud blasts were heard in succession. This time, not only did one stream of firelight fly out towards Longli's flame divine stone, but another streak of firelight did as well. From 2 other flame divine stones, almost simultaneously, 2 more streaks of firelight shot out. All 3 streams of firelight unexpectedly headed straight for Yi-chun. This clearly indicated that Yi-chun had grasped the spells from 3 divine stones all at once. Yi-chun had once again overtaken Longli. The intense competition continued. It wasn't long before Longli activated 4 divine stones, surpassing Yi-chun once more. But after just a few more incense sticks' time, Yi-chun likewise activated 3 divine stones, overtaking Longli once again. Yi-chun and Longli, even in the final layer of the method of fire control's cultivation, remained neck and neck, each indistinguishable from the other. Luckily, both were so deeply engrossed in their cultivation that they were completely unaware of the other's progress. Otherwise, they would probably have exchanged glances once again. One moment Longli was in the lead. The next it was Yi-chun ahead. After an hour passed, both Yi-chun and Longli had acquired firelight from 11 out of the 12 divine stones. Only the final step remained for the 2 of them to complete the cultivation of all the method of fire control spells, which was the ultimate spell on the last divine stone. And this ultimate spell was about how to use the method of fire control to create a special fiery object called Golden Spirit Silk to capture the blue extreme ice flame, preventing the blue extreme ice flame from accidentally harming oneself. Therefore, both Yi-chun and Longli approached the cultivation of this technique with the utmost care, taking the most time to do so. Unbeknownst to them, as they both successfully cultivated the spells from 11 of the 12 flame divine stones and were nearing completion of the spell on the 12th stone, the blue extreme ice flame, inside the fire pit surrounded by the 12 flame divine stones, began to stir even more violently. At the same time, even the fiery red liquid in the fire pit beneath the blue extreme ice flame boiled tumultuously. Just when Yi Chun and Long Li, almost simultaneously, fully mastered the final step of the Golden Spirit Silk cultivation technique written on the 12th Flame Divine Stone, two streams of firelight shot out from the 12th Flame Divine Stone, flying into the fiery light shadow outside both Yi Chun and Long Li. Yi Chun and Long Li opened their eyes at the same time. At that moment, they barely had time to see the 12 huge burning flame divine stones crumbling at a visible speed, followed by the sight of the fire pit holding the blue extreme ice flame, suddenly emitting a tremendous suction force, drawing both of them into the pit. Then, the blue extreme ice flame, floating above the fire pit, split into two violent streams, merged back into one, and shone with a more miraculous light than before. And Yi Chun and Long Li, who were sucked into the fire pit, felt a peculiar fragrance of flames invading their divine consciousness. Upon smelling this strange fire fragrance, both Yi Chun and Long Li's consciousness quickly became numb, and a heat that seemed to emanate from the depths of their hearts instantly surged towards their chests. Chapter 712 Sudden Change. As Yi Chun and Long Li were sucked into the fire pond, and the peculiar aroma of the flames invaded their divine souls, Xiaojiu, who was hidden inside Yi Chen's ice snow jade pendant, felt the abnormal changes in the fire pond, and suddenly her heart was alarmed. Heavenly Union Flame. Inside this fire pond, there actually lies the Heavenly Union Flame. No wonder this divine place of the heavenly gods can give birth to an object of extreme heaven like the blue extreme ice flame. Heavenly Union Flame is the most wonderful nurturing entity between heaven and earth. The strongest of divine fires are nurtured by the Heavenly Union Flame, continuously merging the most mysterious essences of the world. However, after the divine fire is nurtured, the Heavenly Union Flame itself will also merge into the divine fire. Now, after the emergence of the object of extreme heaven, the blue extreme ice flame, the Heavenly Union Flame has not completely disappeared. It has not fully integrated into the blue extreme ice flame. Does that not mean that the blue extreme ice flame is not yet a completely successful nurturing form? Is it possible that it could further transform and elevate its power? If an object of extreme heaven were to enhance its power, it could possibly become a true stellar divine object. Xiaojiu's thoughts were as fast as lightning, and she was utterly shocked. At the same time, what shocked her even more was the potential influence of the Heavenly Union Flame that she had realized. The place where the Heavenly Union Flame nurtures divine fire significantly affects the divine souls and desires of human martial artists. Yi Chun and Long Li, who have been sucked into it together, I'm afraid. Thinking of that possibility, Xiaojiu's face flushed red. Xiaojiu had no time to warn Yi Chun and Long Li. The influence of the Heavenly Union Flame was so strong that even Xiaojiu, who was not a human martial artist but a soul beast, had her divine soul completely restrained within the ice snow jade pendant immediately after her rapid thoughts, unable to ponder the slightest bit further. At this moment, in the entire fire pond, strands of flames surged up, enveloping Yi Chun and Long Li completely, like a huge cocoon layer by layer. Although Yi Chun had a powerful divine soul, under the influence of the Heavenly Union Flame, he had no time to react and his divine soul was instantly lost. And Long Li, whose divine soul was even stronger than Yi Chen's, only managed to hold on for 2 or 3 breaths longer. But even with holding on, the impact on Long Li's divine soul was tremendously intense. In an instant, Long Li realized what the strange aroma signified, just like Xiaojiu did. Long Li only had the time to glance at Yi Chun. Her face instantly turned a deep shade of blush, and then she knew no more. Read latest chapters at novelbin.com. At the very top of the bottomless fire cave. Upon hearing the message from the 4-directional body-shaped array, which stated that Yi Chun and Long Li had both completed the cultivation of the method of fire control's 22nd layer and had qualified for the blue extreme ice flame, the 9 eliminated divine kings, including Yang Yun, were completely dumbfounded. They had not expected that in the end, Yi Chun and Long Li would tie without a clear winner. The 9 of them were puzzled as to who would ultimately obtain the blue extreme ice flame, now that both Yi-chun and Long Li had qualified for it. But the four-directional body-shaped array did not convey any further messages about who would receive the blue extreme ice flame. Instead, a strange force suddenly transported the 9 of them directly out of the bottomless fire cave tunnel and placed them outside the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Standing once again on the ground outside the heaven-reaching ancient tree, all 9 of them looked up towards the very top, towards the tree hole concealing the bottomless fire cave. They all began to wait, waiting for Yi-chun and Long Li to emerge, awaiting the final outcome. However, this wait lasted for an entire day, and they saw neither Yi-chun nor Long Li come out. This made the 9 of them somewhat anxious. Since the cultivation of all 22 layers of the method of fire control has been completed, obtaining the blue extreme ice flame should be quick. Why have Sister Long Li and Yi-chun not come out yet? Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing were particularly anxious. Although they knew that with Long Li's formidable combat strength, there shouldn't be any mishaps, the fact that the pair had not shown up made them inevitably worry. Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi were also somewhat worried. However, the 4 suppressed their concerns, making jokes to ease their anxious minds. Yi-chun is indeed lucky to be able to cultivate with Long Li and to spend so much time together. If you think about it, no other male martial artist in the entire Supreme Divine Institute has spent such a long time with Long Li. Their teasing remarks, however, caused Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng to look quite upset. Just the thought of Yi-chun and Long Li being alone together, and how Long Li seemed so intimate with Yi-chun, made the 3 of them feel very uncomfortable. It's probably because junior sister Long Li is competing with Yi-chun for the blue extreme ice flame, which is why it's taking some time. Who knows? Maybe Yi-chun dared to contend with junior sister Long Li and ended up getting killed by her inside. These thoughts turned over in the minds of Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng. 1 day passed, then 2 days passed. After waiting for a full 3 days without any sign of Yi-chun and Long Li emerging, Zhu Qianqian, Zhu Qingqing, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi all looked worriedly at the tree hole above, no longer uttering jokes. Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng's expressions also kept changing. They had no idea what exactly had happened inside the bottomless fire cave between Long Li and Yi-chun. Yi-chun felt like he had just had an exceedingly sensual dream. In the dream, he and an exquisitely beautiful girl, who appeared to be either a fairy of the Guanghan Temple or a goddess of the Ice Spirit Palace, clung tightly to each other amidst a sea of flames. The girl's soft murmurs made his body go limp. Her smooth, snow-like skin intoxicated him. The 2 of them were utterly lost in tender affection, utterly unable to extricate themselves. Time slipped by unnoticed for a long time. Gradually, Yi-chun's divine sense began to clear up amid an endless haze. Looking at the beauty in his arms, who was as soft as boneless, and staring at her stunning face, he felt in a daze that she seemed like Zhang Yao, yet also resembled Long Li, whom he had only recently met. The exceptional beauty, whose divine sense seemed somewhat clearer than his, had a flushed face full of embarrassment. Her white arms strained to push him away but were too weak, pulling them back into a close embrace. After another long while, Yi-chun's divine sense further cleared, and he began to recall everything that happened before. He remembered practicing the method of fire control with Long Li, how both were drawn into the fire pond, and how it seemed as though something mysterious had influenced their divine sense. She is Long Li. Yi-chun was shocked, looking at the girl in his arms. At that moment, the girl was also looking up at him, her exquisitely beautiful face showing a complex expression of both shyness and annoyance. Yi-chun, you? The girl managed to utter just 3 words before another wave of heat surged over them, and Yi-chun's divine sense, which had just cleared, clouded over once more, as inexhaustible yearning surged through his body. The 2 clung tightly to each other again. Chapter 713 Breakthrough. This time, in a state of half-consciousness, Yi-chun and Long Li both knew they were together with each other. The feeling was extremely awkward. Yet, despite the desire to separate, They could not resist the profound influence of the heavenly union flame on their divine sense, and they even indulged in this intoxicating sensation. Time passed unknowably long. Yi-chan and Long Li were shocked to discover that within the entire fire pond, a mysterious power was frantically infusing into their bodies as they melded together. When this mysterious power infused into their bodies, it would flow into Long Li's body for a while, then into Yi-chan's body for a while. Eventually, even the realms of Long Li and Yi-chan showed signs of surging upward due to the infusion of this mysterious power. Unfortunately, Xiaojiu's divine sense had been completely sealed within Yi-chen's ice snow jade pendant. Otherwise, Xiaojiu would have certainly informed Yi-chan and Long Li that the divine might of the heavenly union flame was revealing itself. The heavenly union flame intended to fully integrate into the two of them so that after they collected the blue extreme ice flame, they could continue to cultivate it within their bodies, even to an existence that transcends sovereigns, the heavenly union flame, a marvel capable of giving birth to extreme heavenly objects and even objects that surpass those. Its uses are infinite. This heavenly union flame, capable of birthing stellar divine objects that surpass even extreme heavenly objects, has an unfathomable origin. But each time it emerges, it brings immense benefits. Although the heavenly union flame primarily nurtures divine fires, even a slight flow of its divine might to young martial artists like Yi-chan and Long Li would certainly bring them boundless benefits. Long Li had already reached the upper God King realm, and her next step was to challenge the lower Earth Divine Venerable realm. Originally, Long Li needed to accumulate more before challenging the lower Earth Divine Venerable, but after the heavenly union flame was infused into her body, she instantly transcended the barrier between God King and Divine Venerable without even invoking the mysterious heavenly divine tribulation, and directly entered the Earth Divine Venerate realm. Long Li thus became a true lower Earth Divine Venerable powerhouse. The enhancement of Yi-chen's realm was even greater. Yi-chen, originally at the Four Tribulations True God realm, broke through the fifth heavenly tribulation, the sixth heavenly tribulation, and the seventh heavenly tribulation in succession under the infusion of the heavenly union flames, divine might, and the divine power fluctuations coming from Long Li, becoming a seven tribulations true God in an instant. Although a seven tribulations true God may not seem like much to many God Kings and even divine venerables, Yi-chan had swiftly broken through in a very short amount of time, even bypassing the full brunt of the heavenly tribulation thunder, directly overcoming the barrier of the heavenly tribulation, and achieving the status of a seven tribulations true God with the grand divine might of the heavenly union flame and the divine power fluctuations from Long Li. If not for the heavenly union flame and divine power fluctuations from Long Li, helping Yi-chan stabilize his realm without excessively elevating it and causing his foundation to be unstable, such vast power could have even propelled Yi-chan into the God King realm. Nonetheless, just the breakthrough into the seven tribulations true God realm already represented an immense gain for Yi-chan. Yi-chan's divine power increased by dozens of times if not more. And what's more precious is that Yi-chan currently was lost in a state where his divine soul could not control himself, still unable to cultivate the primordial star scripture, primordial chapter star God power. Once he recovers, if he cultivates the star God power, it's likely that he could directly advance the primordial chapter star God power from the minor accomplishment realm to the great accomplishment realm in one fell swoop. This would probably allow Yi-chen's power to once again increase by countless times. Even if he still couldn't truly battle someone like Yang Yun and Upper God King without relying on external methods like the Star Blue Divine Garment, just by his combat power, it would probably be effortless for Yi-chan to deal with an average Middle God King or even an average Upper God King. If this were told to others, they probably wouldn't believe it. A Four Tribulations True God, rapidly advancing to a Seven Tribulations True God, upgrading his combat power from the lower God King class to the Upper God King class in a short period of time. However, under the nurturing of the heavenly union flame capable of producing extreme heavenly objects, and even objects beyond that, and nourished by Long Li's divine power, coupled with Yi-chen's primordial star scripture methods, Yi-chen truly achieved this feat. When the heavenly union flame within the fire pond separated into two streams, each infusing into the Qi-Si acupoint of Yi-chan and Long Li, the 3-foot-long brilliant crystal blue extreme ice flame, above the fire pond also bifurcated into two streams, heading towards each of them. As the blue extreme ice flame burst towards Yichun and Long Li, the method of fire control they had previously cultivated unexpectedly acted on its own without their control. Directly following the flight of the blue extreme ice flame, streams of golden flame silk lines instantly formed from their divine power, enshrouding the blue extreme ice flame, and leading it deep into their Qi-Si acupoints. This golden flame silk line was precisely the golden spirit silk, specially cultivated by the method of fire control, to envelop the blue extreme ice flame. Looking into the worlds of their Qi-Si, you could see that both of their Qi-Si worlds were exceptional compared to everyone else's. Within the Qi-Si acupoint of Yichun, besides the surge of vast divine power, there stood an earth-piercing, heaven-supporting 7-layered pagoda, standing tall in the Qi-Si like a sea-calming divine needle. This 7-layered pagoda was none other than the Star Divine Tower, which concealed the primordial star scripture. And at this moment, besides divine power and the Star Divine Tower, two more things appeared in Yichun's Qi-Si acupoint. One was the very stream of heavenly union flame that had entered Yichun's Qi-Si world. Read new chapters at novelbin.com. This stream of heavenly union flame directly formed a little fire pond within Yichun's Qi-Si world. The other object was the blue extreme ice flame, wrapped in golden spirit silk and entering into Yichun's Qi-Si world. The wisp of blue extreme ice flame finally flew into the fire pond formed by the heavenly union flame, slowly drifting within it. Long Li's Qi-Si world was also entirely unique compared to others. Long Li had already stepped into the Earth Divine Venerable Realm. Not only was her divine power present within the Qi-Si, but it had also filled all the special spaces opened within every cell and acupoint throughout her body. Long Li's entire body brimmed with the mysterious heavenly divine power only an Earth Divine Venerable could possess. However, within Long Li's Qi-Si there was also something absolutely extraordinary. This thing, which was shockingly a divine ring emitting the same divine marvel of light as Yichun's Star's Tower. This divine ring, though seemingly extraordinarily small, also felt as vast as countless divine kingdoms, as if harboring an entire cosmos of stars within the ring itself. This divine ring was indeed the wondrous object Long Li possessed, the Star Luo God Ring. Originally, the Star Luo God Ring's tremor had alerted Yichun to it, just as his Star's Tower had caused a similar tremor in the ring belonging to Long Li. Clearly, there was an inexplicable connection between these two objects. It was the trembling of these two things that made Long Li and Yichun take notice of each other and later venture together into the bottomless fire cave, leading to everything that followed. At this moment, beside Yichun's Star's Tower, were the heavenly union flame and blue extreme ice flame. By Long Li's Star Luo God Ring, there was also both the heavenly union flame and blue extreme ice flame, though neither the heavenly union flame nor the blue extreme ice flame dared to approach the Star's Tower or the Star Luo God Ring. Merely drifting in a corner of the Qi-Si world, it was evident that they were somehow inferior to these two objects in terms of mystery. Yet, if either the heavenly union flame or the blue extreme ice flame were to be taken out, many great power holders at the sovereign realm would be extremely envious. All of this happened while Yichun and Long Li could sense it, but were utterly unable to do anything about it. They merely accepted everything passively, muddled in their haze. It took a long while before the two truly regained their vitality and fully awakened from their stupor. Upon waking, Long Li was too embarrassed to even glance at Yichun, her mind preoccupied with the initial pain and shyness rather than the recent ascension in realm or the absorption of the blue extreme ice flame. Instantly, with a gesture of her hand, Long Li's scattered garments flew rapidly back onto her body. Following that, Long Li fled the scene like a frightened rabbit, speeding away from the fire pond. She vanished in an instant. Watching Long Li escape like a scared rabbit, Yichun's eyes reflected a complicated and indescribable sentiment. He did not harbor any romantic feelings towards Long Li, feeling only a sense of camaraderie towards another powerful individual and curiosity about how she was able to trigger a response in the Star's Tower within him. Yi Chun had never imagined that he would find himself in such a situation with Long Li. Although Long Li was unparalleled in beauty, a goddess in the dreams of countless martial artists, Yi Chun only wished for such experiences to occur with Jiang Yao. After all, the one Yi Chun truly cared for was only Jiang Yao. Yet now that things had taken place, there was no way for Yi Chun to change them. While it was common for powerful warriors in the Divine Kingdom to have multiple wives and concubines, Yi Chun had only ever thought of being with Jiang Yao, never considering anyone else. Of course, to claim that Yi Chun was entirely unaffected by the fact that Long Li was his first woman would be impossible. But the fact that she was Long Li and not Jiang Yao caused Yi Chun to heave a deep sigh in his heart. There was no joy in Yi Chun's heart, not even the joy from the breakthrough in Realm or acquiring the blue extreme ice flame. Xiaojiu, what exactly happened? How did I completely lose control over my divine soul? What in the fire pond influenced our divine sense? With a furrowed brow and a movement of his mind and spirit, Yi Chun summoned Xiaojiu from within the ice-snow jade pendant. Now that the heavenly union flame had fully entered both Yi Chun's and Long Li's bodies, Xiaojiu's restraint had been completely lifted. As Xiaojiu flew out from the ice-snow jade pendant, she too spoke to Yi Chun with a hint of shyness. Yi Chun, that thing is called Heavenly Union Flame. This Heavenly Union Flame is incredibly divine. The very reason for the birth of an extreme heavenly object like the blue extreme ice flame. You and Long Li, it's because of it. While Xiaojiu and Yi Chun were speaking, Long Li had already completely left the enormous platform at the bottom of the bottomless fire cave, and as she re-entered the cave's passageways, she didn't dare look back to see if Yi Chun was following, hurriedly flying towards the upper reaches of the bottomless fire cave. She had never experienced such things, completely unsure of how to face Yi Chun after such an intimate encounter. Chapter 714-. The Stunned God Kings. At this time, Long Li had just taken the Heavenly Union Flame and the Blue Extreme Ice Flame into her body, and by subduing these two things, she instantly knew how to leave the bottomless fire cave. Seeing that the others were no longer above the bottomless fire cave, Long Li directly flew out of the bottomless fire cave and arrived outside the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Outside the heaven-reaching ancient tree, the 9 divine kings who were eliminated early had already been waiting for 7 whole days, their hearts filled with extreme impatience. Just then, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, who had been closely watching the tree hole at the very top of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, became excited and jumped up when they saw Long Li's figure flying out. Sister Long Li! Sister Long Li has come out from the bottomless fire cave. Junior sister Long Li, Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng hurriedly looked up. Seeing that it really was Long Li flying out, they quickly moved toward her. But Long Li had no intention of paying attention to Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng. Of course, she was even less willing to let others see anything unusual about her. After flying out from the tree hole, Long Li immediately transmitted a message to Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing. Sisters, let's leave quickly. Leave. Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing were utterly confused. Why did their sister Long Li want to hurry away just after coming out of the bottomless fire cave? And what about the other young man, Yi Chun? Why hadn't he come out from the bottomless fire cave yet? Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing were just about to ask Long Li, but she didn't give them the chance, rushing past everyone and flying towards the area beyond the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Under such circumstances, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing could only frantically follow Long Li and fly away, leaving the remaining 7 people under the heaven-reaching ancient tree completely bewildered. What's going on? Why did junior sister Long Li fly off in such a hurry as soon as she came out? What happened in the bottomless fire cave? Yang Yen couldn't understand what was happening at all. Yi Chun, Long Li is out. Why hasn't Yi Chun come out from the bottomless fire cave yet? That blue extreme ice flame, was it Long Li or Yi Chun who ended up with it? Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi were all looking towards the tree hole at the top of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, also full of doubt. At this moment, Yang Yun and Qin Feng had a strange feeling. Although Yi Chun and Long Li had both completed the 22 layers of the method of fire control and had the final opportunity to seize the blue extreme ice flame, if it came down to strength in competing for the blue extreme ice flame, Yi Chun couldn't possibly win against Long Li. If Long Li had truly killed Yi Chun and taken the blue extreme ice flame, with her status and position, there would be no one daring to trouble her. Long Li would not have fled in such a panic. It must be that something happened between Yi Chun and Long Li that made her act this way. Moreover, when recalling how Long Li flew off in haste, her beautiful face blushing with embarrassment, Qin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Long Li's blush suggested that she had been very shy, and since she spent quite some time alone with Yi Chun, could it be that something happened between them that made Long Li so embarrassed? Could it be that Yi Chun made some inappropriate move towards Long Li? Qin Feng was indeed quick-witted, considering the whole situation hastily. However, he could probably never imagine that Yi Chun not only made a special move toward Long Li, but even shared an intimate moment with her. Qin Feng didn't think too deeply, but at this moment, Yang Yun seemed to realize something, his complexion becoming incredibly ugly. Junior sister Long Li. When she flew away in panic, she didn't conceal her aura. How come I can sense Yi Chen's aura within hers? Yang Yun suddenly uttered a statement that stunned everyone present. At the same time, Yang Yan also seemed to remember something, his expression changing. The aura that junior sister Long Li exuded, unexpectedly, was already that of a lower heavenly divine venerable. Could it be? Inside the bottomless fire cave, junior sister Long Li made a breakthrough? A breakthrough should be an occasion for great joy. Long Li would not have hurried away in such a panic. And in the aura she emitted, there definitely was Yi Chen's, the four tribulations divine kings, aura. This mingling of their auras suggests only one possibility, that they just shared an incredibly intimate moment. Yang Yan's words hit like a thunderclap, stunning everyone at the sight. Long Li, that's the first proud daughter, the #1 goddess of the younger generation of the Supreme Divine Institute and even the Divine Kingdom. She is also the object of secret affection of countless martial artists in the Divine Kingdom. No one has ever heard of Long Li having any involvement with any male martial artist. Now, both Yang Yun and Yang Yan say her aura carries Yi Chen's scent? This could only mean that Long Li and Yi Chun must have had a very intimate encounter indeed. Long Li and Yi Chun, they had a relationship? This is simply unimaginable. The few people at the scene recalled the sight of Long Li hurrying by just now. Long Li was an immensely powerful figure, and even before her breakthrough, they couldn't probe her situation at all. Just now, they indeed couldn't see Long Li's specific situation, but Long Li did indeed reveal some of her aura, and within it, there was certainly the unique stellar power aura of Yi Chun. Thinking back to Long Li's immensely shy demeanor, it indeed seemed like something had happened to make her so embarrassed. If she really had an incredibly intimate relationship with Yi Chun, it would indeed cause Long Li, the pampered girl of heaven, to be immensely embarrassed. All these circumstances together really suggested that it was very likely that something had happened between Yi Chun and Long Li. At this thought, Yang Yun, Yang Yan, and Qin Feng felt like they were about to spew blood. They hadn't even held Long Li's hand. Yet that four tribulations martial artist, Yi Chun, could actually taste the fragrance of her kiss, could actually have a relationship with the goddess of their dreams. The three of them could not accept this possibility at all. At this moment, Qin Feng's eyes seemed to be spitting fire. He had already had a grudge against Yi Chun, and after hearing from Yang Yun that Long Li and Yi Chun were close while staying in the bottomless fire cave, Qin Feng wanted to kill Yi Chun. Now, Qin Feng's killing intent towards Yi Chun grew even stronger. This Yi Chun, no matter whether or not he's had a relationship with junior sister Long Li, I will kill him, completely kill him. Qin Feng, looking at the tree hollow above, wished he could fly right in and personally settle the score with Yi Chun. If it weren't for his inability to enter the tree hollow, he wouldn't have been able to hold back. Yang Yun and Yang Yan, although not as overt as Qin Feng, were also clearly filled with the intent to kill Yi Chun. They were only waiting for Yi Chun to come out, so they could personally ask what had happened and settle the account with Yi Chun. The only ones at the scene without killing intent towards Yi Chun were Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi. At this time, the four of them were also completely shocked. Did brother Yi Chun, he and Long Li, have a relationship? Heavens, if this is true, if this news were to spread, I'm afraid the entire divine kingdom would be in an uproar. Hong Ming and Hong Yi were completely dumbfounded. They had just made the acquaintance of their fellow martial artist, Yi Chun, and their admiration for him knew no bounds. A four tribulations true god, able to have a relationship with a pampered girl of heaven capable of battling the heavenly divine venerable, backed by the #1 power of the Supreme Divine Institute, Sovereign Xuechen, and supported by powers like the Northern Province King of the Divine Kingdom. This was simply too formidable. Mu Ling and Mu Xiao were completely dumbfounded. This is madness. If this is true, probably the entire Divine Kingdom will know about brother Yi Chun. In such a situation, the four of them naturally wouldn't leave the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Together with Qin Feng, Yang Yun, and Yang Yen, who harbored a strong killing intent for Yi Chun, they waited under the heaven-reaching ancient tree, waiting for Yi Chun to appear, to ask for the truth. They didn't have to wait long. Your journey continues at Novelbin. Calm. Suddenly, an incredibly brilliant light appeared from the tree hollow at the top of the entire heaven-reaching ancient tree. Then, just like Long Li had flown out from the tree hollow, Yi Chun flew out from the tree hollow. However, Yi Chun was frowning, evidently wearing a worried expression. As soon as Yi Chun appeared, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, Hong Yi, along with Qin Feng, Yang Yun, and Yang Yen, 7 people, all shot their gazes towards Yi Chun at once. When they saw Yi Chun emanating not the familiar aura of a 4 tribulations true god, but that of a 7 tribulations true god, the complexions of the 7 people at the scene changed dramatically. Yi Chun had only entered the bottomless fire cave a few days ago, and had suddenly gone from a 4 tribulations true god to a 7 tribulations true god. This situation was almost entirely impossible. Unless he really did have a relationship with Long Li, and under the nourishment of Long Li's formidable battle power, he could break through this fast. That was the only possibility. Could it be, just as everyone speculated, that Yi Chun had really slept with Long Li? Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi suddenly wore very peculiar expressions. Yang Yun, Yang Yen, and Qin Feng looked like they were about to spit fire from their eyes. Qin Feng immediately flew towards Yi Chun, his immense battle power covering thousands of feet around like a ferocious wind, and he screamed out loud, "Yi Chun, I'm going to kill you." Chapter 715- Burning and Killing. Qin Feng was a true upper god king, and on the god king list jointly established by the 9 divine academies, he was ranked 5th among the mighty. His true combat power was such that he could even take on an earth divine venerable. Previously, he had struck at Yi Chun once, using only an ordinary attack at the time, which was blocked by Yi Chun's star blue divine garment. Furthermore, with Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi successively backing Yi Chun, he did not continue his attack on Yi Chun. But now, in his fury, Qin Feng no longer held back his strength. He brought out his strongest attacks all at once. Before, Qin Feng had caused the entire fiery realm to erupt into a beastly chaos, even slaughtering the sky-swallowing azure python, which was an earth divine venerable level demon beast, terrifying countless upper god king level beasts of the abyss of 10,000 beasts into frantic flight. His true attack, of course, was unbelievably powerful. When Qin Feng attacked within a radius of thousands of feet, the entire void burst into fragments time and time again. The lethal force that permeated any part of the void was sufficient to shred countless god kings. When that real lethal force was fully unleashed, it could pierce through an ordinary star continent. Even this realm of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, which had been refined by both the heavenly divine venerable and the royal family of the Southern Territory, was tossed upside down by the mighty surge of Qin Feng's killing power. Boom! 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 And the most powerful lethal force, like a storm covering the sky, was all headed toward Yi Chun. Yi Chun, practically the instant he emerged from the uppermost hollow of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, was completely caught in this endless killing force. Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi, the four god kings who were close to Yi Chun, had not expected Qin Feng to strike at Yi Chun with killing intent as soon as he appeared. At this moment, all four of them held Yi Chun in boundless reverence and admiration, and naturally would not let Yi Chun be directly killed by Qin Feng. Stop! Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi's combat power surged wildly in an instant as they rushed to Yi Chen's rescue. This time, Yang Yun and Yang Yen were no longer standing by, enjoying the spectacle. These two, upon witnessing Yi Chen looking as though he truly had an affair with Long Li, hated Yi Chun to the core just like Qin Feng, and naturally did not want to see Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi rescue Yi Chun. Do not interfere with the personal grudge between brother Qin Feng and that Yi Chun. Boom! Boom! Yang Yun and Yang Yen also exploded with astonishing combat power. The two of them, whose true combat power was even stronger than Qin Feng's and countless times more so than Mu Ling's, Mu Zhao's, Hong Ming's, and Hong Yi's, blocked them in an instant. At this time, even if Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi had other cards to play, it was too late to bypass Yang Yun and Yang Yen to rescue Yi Chun, because Qin Feng's attack had already landed on Yi Chun. Just as Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi watched Yi Chun enveloped by the omnipresent lethal force, fearing that the next moment he would fall at Qin Feng's hands, they saw a golden flame, half a finger long, suddenly fly out from Yi Chen's body. This strand of golden flame, upon appearing, scattered its outer layer of golden light to reveal an inner flame of a wondrously crystal blue color. This crystal blue flame, even amidst the endless surge of Qin Feng's killing power, shone with a brilliance that made the whole world pale in comparison. This crystal blue flame was precisely what Yi Chun had just acquired, the extremity of heavenly objects, shared between Long Li and him, one each, the blue extreme ice flame. The surrounding golden light turned out to be the golden spirit silk that wrapped around the blue extreme ice flame, and when the golden spirit silk dispersed, the true divine might of the blue extreme ice flame surged forth completely. In an instant, the crystal blue flame, which was just half a finger long, transformed into a palm-sized crystal blue bird. This crystal blue bird, upon emerging, moved with inconceivable speed, circling around Yi Chun. All the lethal light burst by Qin Feng that was about to strike Yi Chun was burnt to nothing upon contact with the crystal blue bird transformed from the blue extreme ice flame. Subsequently, the crystal blue bird let out a piercing cry and suddenly grew to thousands of feet in size. With a sweep of its wings, engulfed in blue flames, it vaporized all the terrible lethal force within a radius of thousands of feet unleashed by Qin Feng. Then, the bright eyes of the crystal blue bird suddenly glanced at Qin Feng, transforming once again into a stream of flame, swiftly flying straight toward Qin Feng. Qin Feng had never imagined the flame that appeared on Yi Chun could be so terrifying, that it would instantly break his strongest move in an instant. It was even coming straight for him. This is the extremity of heavenly objects, the blue extreme ice flame. But, as a true god of the seven tribulations, you can't possibly control a true extremity of heavenly objects. How can you get it to attack me? Qin Feng could not believe it. He came from the divine Dragon Mountain, one of the four major forces, where its Lord Qin Yuntian was an 8-star sovereign. An 8-star sovereign stood as an absolutely formidable figure among those in the sovereign realm, and naturally possessed extremity of heavenly objects in his hands. Qin Feng, who grew up in the divine Dragon Mountain, certainly knew what extremity of heavenly objects were, and knew full well that even many divine venerables could not drive them. Therefore, Qin Feng was not worried at all about Yi Chun attacking him after obtaining an artifact like the blue extreme ice flame. However, Qin Feng could never have imagined that Yi Chun would actually obtain the blue extreme ice flame, let alone use it to attack him. The speed of an attack from such a heaven-defying object was incredibly fast. At this moment, it was already too late for Qin Feng to dodge. His divine sense had just been in complete disbelief, just as a few thoughts were turning in his mind, the flame transformed from the blue extreme ice flame, burst forth at an incredibly terrifying speed, exploding towards his skull. Qin Feng's arrival at the Nine Suns' ancient land, the relic of the heavenly divine venerable, was originally with no concern for others, and he had not prepared any trump cards for a calamity. He had only the usual defensive and offensive items on him. But even though these defensive items were considered absolutely not bad among upper god kings, even confident against many an earth divine venerable, they stood no chance against the blue extreme ice flame, comparable to the attack of someone in the sovereign realm. In the midst of his utter horror, the protective artifacts on Qin Feng's body were directly penetrated by the blue extreme ice flame, and Qin Feng's body itself was instantly engulfed by the blue extreme ice flame. Boom! With a mere soft sound, Qin Feng's entire body was completely engulfed in flames from the blue extreme ice flame, and, no matter how he howled, within a few breaths, he was burned to ashes without a trace left. Afterwards, the blue extreme ice flame recondensed into a half-inch length and flew back towards Yichun at high speed. Seeing the blue extreme ice flame flying back, countless strands of true qi wafted from Yichun's body, transforming back into golden spirit silk, wrapping around the half-inch-long blue extreme ice flame, and reabsorbing it into his body. From Qin Feng's move to Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi acting to rescue, to Yang Yun and Yang Yan's obstruction, and finally to Yi Chen's counterattack. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Yang Yun, Yang Yan, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi were just confronting each other when they saw Yi Chen's divine fire erupt and witnessed Qin Feng being directly incinerated. This turn of events completely astonished the six of them. They could never have imagined that Qin Feng, who sought to kill Yi Chen, would end up being instantaneously slain by Yi Chen instead. And thinking of Qin Feng's identity, he was the direct descendant of Qin Yuntian, from the Divine Dragon Mountain Force among the four major powers. Otherwise, the Divine Dragon Mountain would not have personally dispatched someone to the Southern Territory to secure a God King quota for Qin Feng to enter the Nine Suns' ancient land. Now, Qin Feng had unexpectedly died at the hands of Yi Chen. This made Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi realize that Yi Chen had probably stirred up earth-shattering trouble. Meanwhile, Yang Yun and Yang Yan did not concern themselves with the huge trouble that Yi Chen had brought on, as both were shivering with cold throughout their bodies. They had similarly wanted to kill Yi Chen. Had it not been for Qin Feng's premature action, they would have already made a deadly move against Yi Chen. But had it been them facing Yi Chen, they likewise would not have been able to withstand his blue extreme ice flame. And they feared that they would be the ones dead on the spot by now. How could this not make Yang Yun and Yang Yan feel an icy chill in their hearts and limbs? Yi Chen dared to kill even Qin Feng. Although they, too, had powerful backgrounds, they feared Yi Chen would dare to kill them just the same. At this time, when they looked at Yi Chen again, they had to suppress their full killing intent, filled with fear as if looking at a god of slaughter. Although they would not let Yi Chen go, they had to wait for another opportunity in the future. At this moment, they dared not provoke Yi Chen anymore. When Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi looked at Yi Chen, they saw that after incinerating Qin Feng and taking back the blue extreme ice flame, Yi Chen's face, neck, and body instantly turned red, as if flames were burning. Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi were all startled. Not good. This is backlash. Although we don't know why Brother Yi Chen could control an artifact like blue extreme ice flame, it's clear that he's not without consequence. He is suffering from backlash. At this moment, Yi Chen's entire body was like flames burning, completely red. He had just left the tree hollow when he was attacked by Qin Feng. And after subduing the blue extreme ice flame, because of the relationship he had formed with Long Li, Yi Chen didn't have time to finally attune to the power of the blue extreme ice flame. When Qin Feng attacked him, a burst of the blue extreme ice flame on his body spontaneously flew out, killing Qin Feng. Your next read is at Novelbin. Calm. And when the blue extreme ice flame flew back into Yi Chen's energy sea, the fire pit transformed from the already wildly raging heavenly union flame within the energy sea became even more violent after retaking the blue extreme ice flame. Yi Chen's entire energy sea was tumultuously surging, and his entire body was on the verge of being directly burned and backlashed by these terrifying flames. Even Yi Chen's divine sense had become wildly violent under the influence of the terrifying heavenly union flame. Ah! With his divine sense raging and his body about to be consumed by backlash, Yi Chen let out a mad roar and charged towards a nearby heaven-reaching ancient tree. With a boom, when a spark burst out from Yi Chen's body, it instantly burned a large section of the heaven-reaching ancient tree's trunk to a pitch-black char. Chapter 716- Long Li's Thoughts. The heaven-reaching ancient tree was a relic left behind by the heavenly divine venerable, the Nine Suns venerable, and a wondrous creation of heaven and earth. Even many formidable divine kings and even the earth divine venerable could not leave a mark on the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Yet the flames that erupted from Yi Chen's body instantly turned a large section of the heaven-reaching ancient tree's trunk into pitch-black charred wood, indicating just how immense the power of these flames was. It was only because Yi Chen was the master of the blue extreme ice flame, and, despite the backlash, was not directly subjected to the full onslaught of the flame's killing power. Otherwise, even with his undying divine body, he would likely have been burnt alive. At this moment, seeing Yi Chen in such distress from the backlash of the extreme, blue extreme ice flame, even though they knew Yi Chen seemed to be gradually losing consciousness, appearing as if mad, Yang Yun and Yang Yen did not dare to approach him in the slightest. They feared that the terrifying blue extreme ice flame that killed Qin Feng might erupt from Yi Chen again, incinerating them on the spot as well. They could only watch as Yi Chen madly crashed against the heaven-reaching ancient tree and the ground, their eyes filled with shock and darting around rapidly, as if they were contemplating something. Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi, on the other hand, were extremely worried and anxious at Yi Chen's current state. But the four of them were completely powerless to help. The backlash from this extreme artifact left them without a solution, despite their extraordinary combat strength within the God King realm. What do we do? If Yi Chen continues like this, I fear a serious problem will occur. We are currently exploring the Nine Suns' ancient land, with no way to seek external help, and the outside world will not intervene in this expedition. If something serious happens to Yi Chen due to the backlash, it would be a great loss for our entire divine kingdom. Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi all furrowed their brows, urgently contemplating if there was any way to help Yi Chen. Hidden within the snow jade pendant, Xiaojiu was the most nervous of all. Xiaojiu hadn't expected that right after Yi Chen emerged from the heaven-reaching ancient tree, he would be attacked by Qin Feng. Nor had she expected the blue extreme ice flame to be even more terrifying than imagined, actually intervening directly and killing Qin Feng on the spot. Killing Qin Feng was, of course, not something Xiaojiu regretted. But the sudden activation of the blue extreme ice flame and its backlash against Yi Chen completely worried Xiaojiu. The heavenly union flame has not been fully nurtured into the blue extreme ice flame, and the blue extreme ice flame itself is an extreme artifact. With Yi Chen's current realm, it is impossible to fully control it. How can I help Yi Chen break free from this backlash? Perhaps only Long Li can help Yi Chen now. In an instant, Xiaojiu thought of someone. She thought of Long Li, who was swept into the lava pool with Yi Chen and had absorbed the other half of the blue extreme ice flame. Although Xiaojiu's divine soul had been confined within the snow jade pendant by the heavenly union flame, and she had not witnessed Yi Chen and Long Li absorbing the blue extreme ice flame, based on what she later heard from Yi Chen and the fact that she received the remaining half of blue extreme ice flame, she could easily piece together the situation of the two people. Xiaojiu knew that they had faced the terrifying influence of the heavenly union flame together before and had coped with it. If Long Li were present during this backlash, she would definitely have a way to help Yi Chen. Thinking of the solution, which likely involved the two of them cultivating together to suppress the impact of the heavenly union flame on the divine soul, Xiaojiu couldn't help but blush. But at this moment, Xiaojiu could no longer be concerned with her embarrassment. Her eyes peered through the jade pendant, searching desperately for Longli as she looked at Yichun, who was being tortured by the backlash of both the Heavenly Union Flame and the Blue Extreme Ice Flame, appearing utterly frenzied. Longli quickly flew away from the bottomless fire cave earlier. She must have done so because of what happened with Yichun. Perhaps she didn't know how to face him. I fear by now she's already vanished without a trace, completely unaware of Yichun's condition. If this goes on, even though Yichun has subdued the Blue Extreme Ice Flame and isn't in mortal danger, a backlash that injures his divine soul and body will greatly affect his future cultivation. Yichun can probably only endure at most for the duration of an incense stick's burning before he can no longer withstand the killing force of the backlash, and his divine soul and body's foundation will be thoroughly damaged. What do I do? What do I do? Xiaojiu was so anxious inside the snow jade pendant that she paced back and forth. At this time, right after Yichun had killed Qin Feng and fallen into the backlash, Xiaojiu was extremely worried and simultaneously searching for Longli. Discover exclusive tales on Novelbin.com. Longli, carrying Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, had almost flown out of the Nine Suns realm and was about to enter the fiery realm at the central region of the Nine Suns' ancient land. During their flight, seeing Longli's face flushed with embarrassment, her delicate ears completely red, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing also began to realize that something unusual was going on with Longli. Why has Longli become like this ever since she came out of the bottomless fire cave? She has always been composed, even when facing great powers from the sovereign realm. She's never had such intense emotional turmoil. What exactly happened in the bottomless fire cave? In the bottomless fire cave, Longli was with Yichun. Could it be that something happened between the two of them? The more they thought about it, the more Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing felt that something was wrong. Eventually, both women couldn't help but fly up to Longli and asked her, "Sister Longli, what exactly is wrong? Who got the Blue Extreme Ice Flame in the bottomless fire cave between you and Yichun? And why does Sister Longli seem so out of sorts?" When Longli heard Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing mention the name of Yichun, her mind went blank in an instant. Yichun was the young man she had had relations with. The mere mention of Yichun's name caused images of their competition in cultivating the method of fire control within the bottomless fire cave to involuntarily surface in Longli's mind. Images of being swept into the fiery pit together with Yichun. Even more so, images of her and Yichun embraced in a way that made her so ashamed she dared not think about it further. Longli's feelings for Yichun were truly complex. Before anything happened with Yichun, she had a slight fondness for him. After all, Yichun was the first peer she had met whose talent was on par with hers, the first who could compete with her head-to-head. He was, moreover, the only one who could trigger the Star Luo God ring within her body. In short, Yichun possessed qualities that differed from others, qualities that allowed Longli, a typically cool and detached girl, to feel no aversion upon meeting him. But even with that fondness, the 16-year-old Longli had never even considered other matters. She had never imagined that she would become involved with Yichun. This completely shattered Longli's perception. Let alone being intimate, she had never even held hands with any other male martial artist. In fact, she kept her distance from other male martial artists in her daily life and didn't have any close male friends. But now, to suddenly become so intimate with Yichun, and to have such an encounter was naturally a cause for both shyness and frustration in the utterly unprepared Longli. Yichun he. Longli looked at Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, completely at a loss for what to say to them. She was, of course, too embarrassed to say that she had been intimate with Yichun. She was even more embarrassed to admit that her panic was due to her fear of facing Yichun. Longli's evasive demeanor only made Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing more suspicious. When both women sensed the peculiar aura of Yichun on Longli's body, their hearts skipped a beat. Could it be that Sister Longli and Yichun? Considering a possibility, both women were so shocked they almost plummeted from the sky. Their sister Longli, what kind of person was she? She was the first goddess of the entire Supreme Divine Institute, and the darling younger girl dearly beloved by sisters of the preceding two Northern Territory kings. The number of people pursuing Long Li throughout the entire divine kingdom of Wanmu Mountain ranged in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. But no one had ever heard of anyone getting close to Long Li. If Yi Chun had truly been involved with Long Li, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing had no idea what kind of tumult this would cause in the divine kingdom. The two women couldn't help but turn around to look towards the heaven-reaching ancient tree to see if Yi Chun had emerged from there. Although they had already flown far away from the heaven-reaching ancient tree, as Upper God King Realm cultivators, their divine sense was incredibly powerful, instantly spanning the vast distance to see what was happening there. The instant they turned around, they saw Yi Chun reeling from the backlash after slaying Qin Feng. What's wrong with Yi Chun? Upon seeing Yi Chun as if engulfed in flames, crashing against the earth and the heaven-reaching ancient tree like a madman, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing screamed in shock.
Ye Chen.
When Long Li heard the screams of Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, heard something seemed to have happened to Yi Chun, she immediately halted in flight, in a panic, looking back towards the heaven-reaching ancient tree as well. When she saw Yi Chun in agony, wildly thrashing due to the backlash from the heavenly union flame and the blue extreme ice flame, her heart tightened. No good. That's the backlash from the blue extreme ice flame. Yi Chun, why would he use the blue extreme ice flame? Long Li stomped her foot in the void anxiously. She didn't even have time to alert Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing. Her speed increased tenfold in an instant, traversing countless realms in the void, flying rapidly toward where Yi Chun was near the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Previously, Long Li had been waiting for Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing to fly together, and although their flight was fast, it was certainly not her fastest. But seeing Yi Chun in trouble, Long Li had no hesitation whatsoever. Subconsciously, she flew at top speed, rushing to Yi Chun's aid. Despite not knowing how to face Yi Chun, Long Li had an instinct deep within her heart. She didn't want to see Yi Chun get hurt. Chapter 717 Like. Long Li had already broken through to the Earth Divine Venerable Realm. When she was in the God King realm, she was an absolute powerhouse, ranking first on the God King list of the 9 great divine institutes, and she was not the least bit afraid to battle heavenly divine venerables. Now that she had broken through to become an Earth Divine Venerable, her combat power had surged to an inconceivable extent. Her speed alone left countless heavenly divine venerables far behind. In the blink of an eye, Long Li had traversed tens of millions of miles and returned to the location of the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Long Li didn't even have time to pay attention to the others nearby. Her gaze was immediately drawn to Yi Chun, who was in a state of frenzy under the backlash of the blue extreme ice flame and heavenly union flame. Yi Chun. At this moment, Long Li couldn't afford to be shy. With a ripple in the void, she appeared right in front of Yi Chun. The next moment, a vast surge of true qi gushed from her body, within which formed strands of golden spirit silk that wrapped around Yi Chun and the surging backlash flames encasing him. Then, the petite girl Long Li, who only reached Yi Chun's shoulders, wrapped her arms around his waist and blushed as she glanced at the heaven-reaching ancient tree, focusing on the sealed tree hole at the very bottom near her. A golden beam of light burst from Long Li's brow, instantly destroying the tree hole's seal that had stopped the other god kings. Carrying Yi Chun, Long Li then flew straight into the tree hole and resealed it from inside. From Long Li's sudden appearance to stopping Yi Chun's backlash fury and carrying him into the tree hole, all of this happened in the span of a flash. Under the heaven-reaching ancient tree, Yang Yun, Yang Yen, Mu Ling, Mu Shao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi, the 6 individuals, had just seen Long Li hurriedly fly back, only to witness her embracing Yi Chun and flying into the tree hole. This clearly indicated that Long Li had returned for Yi Chun. She had come back to save Yi Chun. To see the usually aloof goddess Long Li embrace Yi Chun, without a moment's hesitation, shocked the group under the heaven-reaching ancient tree to their very core. Even though they had previously surmised that Yi Chun and Long Li had a deep relationship, possibly of an intimately close nature, speculation was, after all, speculation. Nothing could compare to witnessing it with their own eyes. Long Li Shi. Long Li Shi. At this point, Yang Yun was trembling with anger. His affection for Long Li was well known throughout the Supreme Divine Institute and the other 8 Divine Institutes, a fact known to countless warriors. Yet, he had difficulty even striking up a few words with her. Now, Long Li had taken the initiative to embrace Yi Chen. Clearly, Yang Yun was nothing more than an ordinary, insipid person in her eyes, while Yi Chen evidently stood out. Yang Yun's heart utterly shattered. He knew Long Li's nature. Unless she was close and fond of someone, she would never act in such a manner. This surely meant Long Li's heart was already taken, and he had no chance of winning her affections. How could he not be utterly heartbroken? And as for Yi Chen, who had earned Long Li's tender concern, Yang Yun was filled with extreme jealousy and hatred. He envied the closeness Yi Chen shared with Long Li and despised the great fortune Yi Chen had in love. If not for the fear of dying by the hands of the blue extreme ice flame like Qin Feng, Yang Yun would have killed Yi Chen on the spot. This Yi Chen, I must kill him, he must be killed. That blue extreme ice flame is incredibly bizarre, and I have no means to control it right now, so it's not wise to make a move. However, it's clear that even this divine object, blue extreme ice flame, is not something Yi Chen can wield easily. Otherwise it wouldn't backfire so terribly. I can't act personally, but I can get someone else to do it. Without the aid of the blue extreme ice flame, Yi Chen is just a 7 tribulation true god. Killing him would be as easy as crushing an ant. Now that Yi Chen has killed Qin Feng, the people of Divine Dragon Mountain will not let him off easily. Divine Dragon Mountain is one of the 4 major forces of the Divine Kingdom. Its strength is nothing less than that of the 4 Dukes' mansions. Just let the news of him killing Qin Feng spread, and Divine Dragon Mountain will definitely flay Yi Chen layer by layer. Malignant schemes flickered through Yang Yun's mind. Every time he thought of Yi Chen holding a beauty like Long Li in his arms, his teeth clenched with hatred.
Yang Yan, besidehim, harboret similarly phenomos stokes as Yang Yun.
Yang Yan had even thought of several individuals who could act on his behalf to deal with Yi Chen without him lifting a finger. As for Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi, they were too preoccupied to wonder about Yang Yun and Yang Yan's thoughts. Their minds were focused on one fact. Their acquaintance, Yi Chen, was indeed so intimately connected with Long Li. Long Li really did treat Yi Chen differently. Once this news gets out, it's likely that the entire Divine Kingdom and all of the 9 great Divine Institutes will know of Yi Chen, our friend. It's uncertain whether this will be a blessing or a curse for Yi Chen.
Mu Ling pondered.
Among the 10 God Kings who entered the 9 Suns' ancient land, Long Li had carried Yi Chen into the tree hole, and Qin Feng had been executed. The remaining 8 Yang Yun, Yang Yan, Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, and Hong Yi all stood under the heaven-reaching ancient tree, watching the tree hole where Long Li and Yi Chen disappeared, and the last 2 following Long Li and also flying back toward the heaven-reaching ancient tree, the sisters Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, had finally flown back to the vicinity of the heaven-reaching ancient tree as well. Both of them had already seen from afar the scene of Long Li holding Yi Chen in her arms. At this moment, the 2 women were incredibly disturbed. Little sister Long Li, she actually got so intimate with Yi Chen. Both were upper god kings, whose realms far surpassed Yi Chen's, but they harbored a hidden fondness for Yi Chen, who had matched Long Li in the art of fire control during cultivation. However, seeing their little sister Long Li so close with Yi Chen let them know that there was no longer any possibility between them and Yi Chen. Inside the prohibition tree hole at the very bottom of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, this was a vast and special treasure space. Initially, Yi Chen came here to enter this tree hole at the very bottom of the heaven-reaching ancient tree using the secret map obtained from the Golden Light Sons of the Golden Light Divine City. Instead, he accidentally got sucked into the bottomless fire cave, where he encountered Long Li and got involved with her in that incident. After exiting the bottomless fire cave, before Yi Chen had a chance to further explore this tree hole at the bottom, he was attacked by Qin Feng, and following Qin Feng's death faced the backlash of the Heavenly Union Flame and the Blue Extreme Ice Flame. Yi Chen could never have anticipated that he would enter this tree hole at the bottom in this manner. It was Long Li who had carried him in. At this point, although the backlash forces were temporarily contained by Long Li, all of Yi Chen's fighting strength was completely suppressed by the backlash force, and his divine sense was becoming weaker. Yi Chen's consciousness retained only a sliver of clarity, enough to sense everything happening outside. Yi Chen. Long Li looked at Yi Chen tightly wrapped in the golden spirit silk. Her beautiful eyes flashed a trace of distress as she saw Yi Chen in a wretched state from the backlash. The backlash of the heavenly union flame can only be resolved by restabilizing the flame. Could it be that I have to do that with him again? Long Li thought of a way to help Yi Chen out of the crisis. Even her pretty face couldn't help but blush at the thought. Long Li's beautiful eyes showed a struggling expression. She did not reject Yi Chen, but she was also unwilling to actively use such a method to help Yi Chen. If she had not already been intimate with Yi Chen, she would not even dare to think of such a method, let alone consider it. But without this method, she was completely unable to help Yi Chen deal with the damage from the backlash force. This made Long Li utterly hesitant and struggling. Finally, after what seemed like the time it took to brew a pot of tea, when she saw the golden spirit silk she had stimulated gradually unable to suppress the increasingly violent backlash force on Yi Chen's body, when she saw Yi Chen, whose divine sense was becoming less conscious due to the strengthening backlash force, involuntarily showing a pained expression, Long Li finally made up her mind. Long Li bit her pearly teeth hard, her body emitting streaks of golden light that completely enveloped her and Yi Chen within a golden sphere. Half an hour later, the golden light dispersed, and Long Li's figure was revealed once more. By then, Long Li had redressed, appearing as if nothing had happened, just like before. But the flush on her face indicated what had just transpired. Long Li glanced at Yi Chen, whose breathing had gradually steadied and whose backlash force had completely disappeared, now fallen into deep sleep, and her face reddened again. Then, Long Li took out a white jade tablet, pressed it against her fair forehead for a moment, recording some words she wanted to say to Yi Chen, and placed the jade tablet beside him. Afterward, Long Li took one last deep look at Yi Chen, then passed through the prohibitions of the tree-hole space and flew back outside the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Not long after Long Li left, Xiaozhou also flew out from Yi Chen's ice snow jade pendant. Xiaozhou glanced in the direction where Long Li had departed, then at the sleeping Yi Chen and murmured, "This young girl is really good to Yi Chen. She actually helped Yi Chen with him again." Thinking of the method Long Li used to solve Yi Chen's backlash force, Xiaozhou's face couldn't help but redden. Having seen Long Li's actions before, Xiaozhou was aware of Long Li's thoughts. Embarrassed by the method, Xiaozhou immediately isolated the ice snow jade pendant completely. Still, Xiaozhou knew that Long Li had saved Yi Chen and was aware of everything that had transpired. It seems that she really does like Yi Chen a bit, and probably she doesn't even realize it. What a pity Yi Chen already has his favorite, Zhang Yao. It's uncertain what the outcome with this young girl will be. Xiaozhou sighed, looking again at the sleeping Yi Chen. Yi Chen has fallen into sleep to recuperate from some of the earlier damage caused by the backlash force. It shouldn't be long before he awakens. Once he's awake, I should really discuss this blue extreme ice flame with him thoroughly. We can't always rely on Long Li to save him like this. Xiaozhou mumbled to herself. Before long, just as Xiaozhou had predicted, Yi Chen awoke from his deep slumber. Chapter 718 Two Pieces of News. Yi Chen, you're awake? Seeing Yi Chen awaken from his deep sleep, with the backlash injuries already completely healed, Xiaozhou exclaimed with joy. Xiaozhou. Yi Chen nodded gently at Xiaozhou. Then, Yi Chen's gaze shifted to where Long Li had vanished. After a long while, Yi Chen retracted his gaze and looked at the white jade token that Long Li had left by his side. While experiencing the backlash, even though Yi Chen was engulfed by it, he still had a sliver of divine sense left clear, allowing him to sense everything that had happened. Even when he fell into a deep sleep, Yi Chen still sensed Long Li's quiet departure. Yi Chen naturally understood all that Long Li had done for him. If it weren't for Zhang Yao, perhaps Yi Chen really would have felt a liking for the young girl Long Li. But after all, there was Zhang Yao. Yi-chun didn't know how he would face Long Li afterward. However, no matter what, Yi-chun would not let go of Zhang Yao. After a deep sigh, Yi-chun picked up the message jade token that Long Li left behind and placed it on his forehead, using his divine sense to sense the words inside. Within the jade token, Long Li didn't mention the shameful incident between her and Yi-chun, but instead told him all she knew about the Heavenly Union Flame and the Blue Extreme Ice Flame. She warned Yi-chun to be cautious with the Heavenly Union Flame and the Blue Extreme Ice Flame to avoid another unresolvable backlash crisis in the future. The line-by-line exhortation from Long Li, candidly explaining the situation of the Heavenly Union Flame and the Blue Extreme Ice Flame, made Yi-chun's heart feel an indescribable mix of emotions. Yi-chun could certainly feel Long Li's concern for him. Without that concern, Long Li wouldn't have come back to save him, helping him escape the major injury caused by the backlash. Without that concern, Long Li would certainly not have told him all the secrets she knew about the Heavenly Union Flame and the Blue Extreme Ice Flame without holding back. Towards this young girl with whom he had an intimate relationship, this first goddess of the young generation of the Divine Kingdom, Yi-chun had only one sentiment, and that was deep gratitude to a beautiful benefactor. Deep gratitude to a beautiful benefactor. Yet the outcome is unknown. When Yi-chun put the jade token left by Long Li back down, he let out a long sigh. Xiaojiu, who was by his side, naturally knew what troubled Yi-chun. She knew Yi-chun liked Zhang Yao, and she knew Zhang Yao liked Yi-chun as well. Now, however, the young girl Long Li had suddenly appeared, and this young girl had also become so intimately involved with Yi-chun. Even Xiaojiu was somewhat worried, uncertain whether Long Li or Zhang Yao would end up with Yi-chun in the end. Both girls were so outstanding, both so stunningly beautiful, and both were so kind to Yi-chun. Otherwise, why not just marry them both? Xiaojiu thought in distress, and finally couldn't help but mumble to Yi-chun. Anyway, many great power holders in the Divine Kingdom have several wives and concubines. Yi-chun, you are outstanding enough to match both Zhang Yao and Long Li. Although Xiaojiu favored Zhang Yao, with whom she had experienced adventures in the Undersea Divine Palace, a bit more, considering how Long Li had shamelessly saved Yi-chun and then left silently, Xiaojiu did not want Long Li to be hurt either. Xiaojiu's words made the troubled Yi-chun give her an involuntary white-eyed glance. Whether it was Zhang Yao or Long Li, both were unique girls in this world. Let alone whether they would agree. Even if they did, their elders would probably not accept it. After all, behind Long Li was the Northern Territory King and Sovereign Xuechen, the strongest individual from the Supreme Divine Institute. Such great power holders would never agree to a situation where two women shared one husband. Forget it, we'll deal with the matters of the future when they come. In the end, Yi-chun was unwilling to dwell on this troublesome matter any longer. The urgent priority was that he had to resolve the backlash issue with the Blue Extreme Ice Flame and the Heavenly Union Flame. Otherwise, every instance of backlash would have to be resolved through the intimate connection with Long Li, which he wouldn't want, not to mention that Yi-chun was unwilling to continuously take advantage of Long Li without any clarity. This time it was the unexpected backlash from annihilating Qin Feng, but in the future, Yi-chun couldn't let such an accident occur again. According to Long Li, she cultivates a special cultivation method left by a great power holder, which was once triggered by me. Initially, my Stars Tower and Primordial Star Scripture were also triggered by Long Li. It seems likely that the cultivation method Long Li mentioned is on the same level as my Primordial Star Scripture. Since Long Li had had relations with Yi-chun, she didn't withhold the incident of her Star Luo God Ring being triggered by Yi-chun and straightforwardly explained the situation to Yi-chun in the message jade token. From what Long Li said, Yi-chun immediately guessed that Long Li might possess something of the same level as his Stars Tower and Primordial Star Scripture. Now that Long Li had left, if she hadn't, Yi-chun would have even discussed this level of existence with her thoroughly. After all, Yi-chun still knew too little about the existence beyond the sovereign realm, like the ZG Star Lord. At this time, Long Li had also received an item of the same caliber left by a being of that level, and Yi-chun, of course, had to inquire about Long Li's situation carefully. Long Li said she had cultivated her special cultivation technique to an extremely profound degree, which was the only way she could resist the recoil of Heavenly Union Flame and Blue Extreme Ice Flame, allowing her to summon the Blue Extreme Ice Flame and use it to practice the technique. I'm afraid that if I want to freely use Blue Extreme Ice Flame and Heavenly Union Flame, I must also cultivate the Primordial Star Scripture to a deeper level. The fourth chapter, the Primordial chapter, obviously isn't enough. It's very likely that I would be able to do this only by practicing the Primordial Star Scripture to the fifth or even the sixth chapter. After Yi Chun and Long Li fused, he broke through from the 4 Tribulations True God realm to the 7 Tribulations True God realm in one fell swoop. He had not yet taken the time to properly refine the benefits of this breakthrough, nor had he taken advantage of the breakthrough to further practice the stellar divine diagram of the 4th chapter of the Primordial Star Scripture, the Primordial chapter. At this moment, the Heavenly Union Flame and Blue Extreme Ice Flame within Yi Chen's body were like a thunder ready to explode at any moment, which naturally made him even more resolute in pushing towards a higher level of mastery in the Primordial Star Scripture. Only by cultivating the Primordial Star Scripture to a higher level could Yi Chun be confident and no longer worry about Blue Extreme Ice Flame and Heavenly Union Flame. Long Li left me a method in the Jade Token that can temporarily suppress the Heavenly Union Flame and Blue Extreme Ice Flame, preventing them from erupting spontaneously, until Heavenly Union Flame and Blue Extreme Ice Flame are completely handled. These 2 powerful forces must not be used again. The exploration of the 9 Suns' ancient land still has some time before it ends. During this period, I will cultivate diligently within this hollow of the tree, aiming to make further progress in the 4th chapter, the Primordial chapter. With the Fire Elemental Lotus Seed, I risked my life to obtain from Flame Mountain, which can enhance my strength by an entire minor realm. I will at least break through to the 7 Tribulations True God. After I have cultivated the Primordial chapter to the level of great accomplishment, only then will I leave. Once I have completely finished cultivating the Primordial chapter and entered the later chapters of the Primordial Star Scripture, I will see if there's even a fraction of a chance to resolve the recoil from Heavenly Union Flame and Blue Extreme Ice Flame. After much thought, Yi Chun began to meditate and cultivate directly in the hollow of the tree. While Yi Chun awoke and entered into cultivation, Long Li, who had previously left the hollow, had already arrived outside of it. Long Li's cheeks were still flushed with shyness from her recent intimacy with Yi Chun. Her appearance immediately caught the complete attention of the few god kings outside. This time, Yang Yun, Yang Yen, Mu Ling, Mu Shao, Hong Ming, Hong Yi, Zhu Qianqian, and Zhu Qingqing had become absolutely certain of the special relationship between Long Li and Yi Chun, and their gazes towards Long Li fundamentally changed. The meaning in their eyes made Long Li even more embarrassed and irritated. Long Li glanced back at the hollow where Yi Chun was. Her gaze was complex. When Long Li turned her head back, she suppressed the shyness in her heart and looked at Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, speaking out, "Sisters, I've already obtained what I should have from the 9 Suns' ancient land. I will take my leave first. You sisters stay here and wait. Wait for Yi Chun to come out safely. Then you can leave." Seeing Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing nodding, and without waiting for the 2 women to say more, Long Li suddenly appeared at an extremely high point in the void heaven. With a grasp towards the void heaven, Long Li tore open a rift in the 9 Suns' ancient land, which had been sealed off during the exploration period. Then, she directly escaped from the 9 Suns' ancient land region. The 9 Suns' ancient land was a domain left by a heavenly divine venerable such as the 9 Suns Venerable, which was later refined again by the heavenly divine venerable of the Southern Territory King Mansion. Such a domain, being sealed during the exploration period, couldn't be breached by even other heavenly divine venerables. Yet, Long Li effortlessly tore open the rift and left the 9 Suns' ancient land. This, of course, shocked the remaining 8 god kings to the utmost. All 8 understood that after Long Li's encounter with Yi Chun, her strength had similarly surged. Previously, Long Li, still at the upper god king realm, was capable of battling a heavenly god. Now, having advanced to the earth divine venerable realm, It was probably not impossible for her combat power to have climbed to the level of an immortal divine venerable. Otherwise, she would not have been able to leave the Nine Suns' ancient land so easily. Seeing Long Li leave and the rift in the void heaven close up again, the expressions of Yang Yun and Yang Yen darkened to the extreme. The stronger Long Li became, the more they felt a sense of loss, and their hatred towards Yi Chun increased. Because, before she left, Long Li had asked Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing to look after Yi Chun, clearly indicating her heart was tied to Yi Chun, and they had no hope of competing successfully against him. Seeing the dark expressions on Yang Yun and Yang Yan's faces, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing understood their thoughts. After exchanging a glance, both women unsheathed their treasured swords and stood guard outside the hollow where Yi Chun was cultivating. This situation infuriated Yang Yun and Yang Yen even more, since they already lacked confidence to strike down Yi Chun personally due to the blue extreme ice flame, and now with Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing guarding nearby, the two eventually left the scene with a cold snort. As for where they went, what they did, no one knew. However, after Yang Yun and Yang Yen left, two pieces of news spread throughout the entire Nine Suns' ancient land, causing a great stir among all the surviving explorers. One of the news was that Qin Feng from the Divine Dragon Mountain, a notable upper god king from the four major forces, was killed by a true god named Yi Chun. The death of the renowned Qin Feng at the hands of a true god naturally caused a huge uproar in the entire Nine Suns' ancient land. The other piece of news shocked all the martial artists in the Nine Suns' ancient land and even astonished the Earth Divine Venerables stationed there by the Southern Territory King Mansion, as it was simply unbelievable. The second message being circulated claimed that the first goddess of the younger generation of the Divine Kingdom, the first goddess of the Supreme Divine Institute, Long Li, had also formed an intimate relationship with Yi Chun, the true god who had killed Qin Feng. Chapter 719 The Shaking of the Divine Kingdom. When these two pieces of news spread throughout the Nine Suns' ancient land, in no time, everyone knew Yi Chun's name. Long Li, which warrior entering the Nine Suns' ancient land didn't know of her, didn't admire her. This young girl, merely 16 years old, had already reached the realm of an upper god king, shocking countless people. Whether it was her stunning beauty, her formidable strength, or even her mysterious and unpredictable background, she earned the deep respect, admiration, and worship of many. Such a young girl was also the secret love of countless warriors. However, no one had ever heard of Long Li being close to any male warrior. Find more to read at novelbin.com. Now, the news had spread that Long Li had broken through to the Earth Divine Venerable Realm and that she had become involved with Yi Chun. How could this not shock countless people to their core? Moreover, this Yi Chun had killed the upper god king Qin Feng while only at the true god realm, which made many feel it was utterly inconceivable. Qin Feng, hailing from one of the four major forces, Divine Dragon Mountain, was a supreme figure among upper god kings, yet died at the hands of a true god. This was simply unimaginable. In no time, everyone within the Nine Suns' ancient land knew the name Yi Chun, and everyone was inquiring about the situation of this young man who was able to kill Qin Feng and win over Long Li. Yi Chun, he actually became involved with Sister Long Li. Lin Shaowan, who had entered the Nine Suns' ancient land with Yi Chun and had also practiced at the Supreme Divine Institute, was now in a place within the fiery realm of the Nine Suns' ancient land. Upon hearing the two pieces of news about Yi Chun, Lin Shaowan was so startled that she jumped up. Having participated in the Divine City battle alongside Yi Chun, Lin Shaowan of course knew how formidable he was. But even if Yi Chun was formidable, he was still only a true god, and the gap between him and the upper god king realm was just too large. When Lin Shaowan heard the news that Yi Chun had killed upper god king Qin Feng, she felt like she was about to faint. Even at the Supreme Divine Institute, Lin Shaowan had never heard of such a tremendous leap in strength to kill an opponent. What shook Lin Shaowan even more was the news of Yi Chun's involvement with Long Li. Originally, Lin Shaowan had been full of speculation about the relationship between Yi Chun and Long Li since Long Li had suddenly approached her with inquiries about Yi Chun. Now, hearing that the two of them had become involved, Lin Xiaowan felt both astounded and a sense of realization. Lin Xiaowan had always had a premonition that there was some connection between Long Li and Yi Chun, never expecting the connection to be so profound. So profound that even the proud daughter of heaven, Long Li, had become Yi Chen's woman. It wasn't only Lin Xiaowan who was shaken. Several descendants of city Lord Nye, who had entered the Nine Suns' ancient land with Yi Chun and were still alive, were also tremendously shaken, especially Nye Ningnan, who Yi Chun had once saved, now hiding in a safe area of the icy realm within the Nine Suns' ancient land. When she heard the two pieces of news from other warriors within the safe area, Nye Ningnan couldn't believe that the true god in the news was Yi Chun, whom she knew. However, the description of Yi Chun in the news matched exactly with the Yi Chun that had saved her, which made Nye Ningnan realize that the true god in the news was indeed Yi Chun. For Nye Ningnan, Long Li was no mere young girl, but a legend in the entire divine kingdom. Even in the small divine cities, Nye Ningnan had heard of Long Li's name. The chance to catch a glimpse of Long Li's true visage had already thrilled Nye Ningnan immensely. Nye Ningnan could have never imagined that during her journey to the Nine Suns' ancient land, not only had she seen Long Li, but Yi Chun, who had come along with her, had even had such an affair with Long Li. After this incident, it was likely not only Yi Chen's reputation that would soar, but even the circulation of Heaven Divine City would probably be mentioned countless times. After all, Yi Chun had entered the Nine Suns' ancient land with a spot from the circulation of Heaven Divine City. Yet Nye Ningnan was also worried. Although she had never met that upper god King Qin Feng, she had heard that this Qin Feng was very influential. Yi Chen's killing of Qin Feng would likely bring great trouble upon him. Nye Ningnan admired Yi Chun greatly but was also concerned that Yi Chun might not be able to handle such a massive problem. Yi Chun is so formidable. He dared to kill Qin Feng, so he must have a way to deal with the forces behind Qin Feng. Nye Ningnan thought to herself. As the two pieces of news spread, countless people, just like Lin Xiaowan and Nye Ningnan, were discussing Yi Chun. They discussed Yi Chen's background. They discussed the matter between Yi Chun and Long Li and what might happen between Yi Chun, Qin Feng, and the Divine Dragon Mountain backing Qin Feng in the future. About the veracity of these two pieces of news, although many warriors were astonished, they did not doubt them. Because the details of the two pieces of news were so intricate that they simply did not seem fabricated, and the news was easily verifiable. By the time the exploration of the Nine Suns' ancient land came to an end, everyone would know whether these two pieces of news had really happened or not. For a time, everyone continued their adventures in the Nine Suns' ancient land, all the while waiting for the day when the exploration would end. Everyone was curious to see what Yi Chun, the one who could kill Qin Feng and become close with Long Li, looked like. Even more so, everyone was eager to see what kind of waves these two events would cause in the Divine Kingdom, while these two pieces of news were fermenting within the Nine Suns' ancient land. Outside of the Nine Suns' ancient land, there was already a stir. Before the news had even left the Nine Suns' ancient land, Long Li, who had torn through the land's barrier and left, had already surprised the elite guardians waiting outside. Originally, the elite guardians from the Southern Territory King Mansion led by Sovereign Zhao Kuo, from Mu King Mansion led by Sovereign Mu Shan, from Divine Dragon Mountain led by Elder He, as well as Sovereign Dong Mei from Danxia Valley, Sovereign Fei Yuan from Taiyun Sky, and Sovereign Hong Li from the Supreme Divine Institute. These 6 sovereigns were leisurely drinking and chatting above the void outside the Nine Suns' ancient land, waiting for the month-long exploration to end. What they did not expect was that just a few days in, they would see the forbidden barrier over the land of the Nine Suns' ancient land being torn open, and a figure escaping out. If anyone else had left the Nine Suns' ancient land during the exploration, breaking the land's prohibitions, the Southern Territory King Mansion would have probably imposed severe penalties. But when they saw that the escaping figure was Long Li, the guards outside the Nine Suns' ancient land didn't dare say a word, not to mention that Long Li was already extraordinarily strong. With the support of the strongest in the Supreme Divine Institute, the 9-star Divine Venerable Sovereign Xueqin, and even the more mysterious power of the Northern Territory Prince, which was rumored to be so terrifying that even the ruler of the Divine Kingdom wouldn't provoke it, The Southern Territory King Mansion couldn't dare show any disrespect towards Long Li. So when they saw Long Li flying out of the Nine Suns' ancient land, the divine venerables standing guard were merely shaken and stepped aside, giving Long Li a clear path while marveling at the 16-year-old girl's ability to tear through the restrictions of the Nine Suns' ancient land. And out of immense curiosity, they watched Long Li, wanting to know why she came out so early. The 6 sovereigns outside were also somewhat surprised to see Long Li emerge. The strongest among them, the 6-star divine venerable sovereign Hong Li, hurried to greet Long Li as soon as he saw her. "Sister Long Li." Seeing sovereign Hong Li's actions, the other sovereigns followed suit and greeted Long Li as well. "Sister Long Li, why did you come out so quickly? Did you find what you were looking for? My God! Sister Long Li, did you break through to the Earth Divine Venerable Realm?" Upon seeing Long Li, Sovereign Hong Li immediately started talking, and when he noticed Long Li had broken through to the lower Earth Divine Venerable Realm, he couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment. Even though the lower Earth Divine Venerable was still leagues away from Sovereign Hong Li's 6-star Venerable Realm, Sovereign Hong Li was well aware of his sister's prowess. His sister Long Li was only 16 years old. A 16-year-old Earth Divine Venerable was unheard of, not just in the Divine Kingdom of Wanmu Mountain, but also in the other Divine Kingdoms. Even Sovereign Hong Li himself was merely a weak Divine King when he was 16. Not only was Sovereign Hong Li shocked, but the other sovereigns were also astounded by Long Li's promotion. This young pride of the Divine Kingdom left these sovereigns feeling that given enough time, Long Li surpassing them would be all too easy. Could it be that my Divine Kingdom is about to see another entity surpassing the Divine Venerable Realm? These thoughts even occurred to the sovereigns. Seeing the astonished looks from the sovereigns, Long Li didn't show any joy about her breakthrough. Her mind was full of Yi Chen's image, all the events that had happened between her and Yi Chen. She had no time to care about anything else, feeling her mind entwined in chaos. "Sovereign Hong Li, let's head back to the Supreme Divine Institute first," Long Li said, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, without answering Sovereign Hong Li's questions. "Ah!" Sovereign Hong Li was momentarily stunned upon hearing Long Li's words. She also noticed that her little sister had an unusual expression. But for her little sister, Sovereign Hong Li didn't dare to ask too much. In the end, Sovereign Hong Li nodded to Long Li and said, "All right, if sister wants to go back, then let's go back first." Sovereign Hong Li thought to herself that they could ask Long Li what happened after they returned to the Supreme Divine Institute. She didn't dare to inquire, but her master, Sovereign Xuechen, would likely have questions. After bidding farewell to the other sovereigns and hastily leaving with Long Li, the rest of them were slightly confused. They did not expect Long Li to come out of the Nine Suns' ancient land so soon, nor could they have anticipated that Long Li appeared so preoccupied, as if something had happened within the Nine Suns' ancient land. What could it be that filled this prodigy with such thoughts? The sovereigns were deeply curious. And when the 2 pieces of news from the Nine Suns' ancient land were finally conveyed by the guardians inside, the sovereigns finally understood the reason behind Long Li's preoccupation. Long Li, she actually had relations with a young man named Yi Chen. The sovereigns from both the Southern Territory King Mansion, Zhao Kuo, and Mu King Mansion, Mu Shan, leaped to their feet. The elder from Divine Dragon Mountain was even more thunderstruck in his mind, because the other piece of news was that Qin Feng had died by the hands of Yi Chen. Qin Feng was a member of his Divine Dragon Mountain, a direct descendant of the mountain's deity leader. Chapter 720-8th Tribulation's True God. Although the news about Heaven's chosen maiden Long Li and Yi Chen's affair was shocking, elder he was a martial artist from Divine Dragon Mountain, the one who sent Qin Feng to Nine Suns' ancient land. Since Qin Feng died at the hands of Yi Chen, naturally elder he had no time to care about anything else. There was only one thought in elder he's mind, and that was how he was going to explain this to the Divine Dragon Mountain sect master, Qin Yuntian. After all, elder he knew very well that Qin Feng was exceedingly dear to Qin Yuntian, one of the few juniors whom Qin Yuntian cherished the most. Otherwise, Qin Yuntian, wouldn't have personally asked the Southern Territory King for a god-king slot for Qin Feng to enter the Nine Suns' ancient land. Qin Feng. He's dead. Explore stories on novelbin.com. Now, the sect master will probably be furious. Thinking of Qin Yuntian's strength, even as a 4-star sovereign realm great power holder. Elder, he felt a shiver of fear. He didn't dare to hide the slightest bit. As soon as he received the news that Qin Feng had died in the Nine Suns' ancient land, Elder, he immediately transmitted the message to Divine Dragon Mountain, reporting Qin Feng's slaying by Yi Chun back to Divine Dragon Mountain. It wasn't long before Divine Dragon Mountain sent back a decree. The decree ordered Elder He to execute Yi Chun as soon as he came out, and to bring Yi Chen's head back to Divine Dragon Mountain. The transmission speed of a sovereign realm great power holder was unimaginably fast. Elder He's actions couldn't be hidden from the other sovereigns at the scene. The other sovereigns, of course, knew that Elder He's actions were due to the second piece of news. Yi Chun killed Qin Feng. Several sovereigns from the major forces sighed as they looked in the direction of Nine Suns' ancient land. Who exactly is this Yi Chun? Such a young man? How could he, at the true god realm, have such an affair with Long Li, and also kill Qin Feng? It's unclear how the Supreme Divine Institute and the Northern Territory King Mansion will deal with him, but no matter how those two handle him, Divine Dragon Mountain certainly won't spare him lightly. Seeing Elder He's demeanor, it's clear that he has received the execution order from Divine Dragon Mountain. It's likely that the moment Yi Chun comes out of Nine Suns' ancient land, he'll die at the hands of Elder He. These sovereigns all began to wait on the sidelines. Divine Dragon Mountain's matter was unrelated to them and Yi Chun, and they were not in a position to intervene. They could only stand by and watch the drama unfold. Moreover, the sovereigns all had an inkling that Yi Chun, with his true god realm strength, killing the upper god king level Qin Feng and having an affair with Long Li without her punishing him, did not seem like someone who would die easily at the hands of Elder He. Perhaps there would be a surprise. For a while, the sovereigns were somewhat looking forward to the end of the Nine Suns' ancient land exploration and the scene of Yi Chun emerging. They also wanted to see what this outrageously bold Yi Chun really looked like. While the news of Qin Feng's execution and the affair with Long Li were rippling through the inside and outside of Nine Suns' ancient land, causing countless martial artists and even the big shots of the Divine Kingdom to be shocked, Yi Chun was quietly cultivating within the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Days passed one after the other. As the time for the 1-month exploration of Nine Suns' ancient land drew closer, Yi Chun still hadn't come out from the Prohibition tree hole at the very bottom of the heaven-reaching ancient tree. This made Mu Ling, Mu Xiao, Hong Ming, Hong Yi, and those arranged by Long Li to stay behind, Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, all god kings, become somewhat anxious while waiting. In the end, after waiting for more than 10 days, Hong Ming and Hong Yi could no longer persist and left the heaven-reaching ancient tree. They still had cultivation tasks to attend to and couldn't keep wasting time at the heaven-reaching ancient tree. Although they really wanted to meet Yi Chen again, the one who had caused such a huge stir in Nine Suns' ancient land, they could only wait to see him when they left Nine Suns' ancient land. After Hong Ming and Hong Yi left, the siblings Mu Ling and Mu Xiao from Mu King Mansion did not move. They originally came to Nine Suns' ancient land just to watch the excitement. At this point, they only wanted to wait for Yi Chun to come out and interrogate him properly. How could they willingly leave? As for Zhu Qianqian and Zhu Qingqing, they were commanded by Long Li to stay behind and protect Yi Chun, so they certainly weren't going anywhere either. While these 4 god kings continued their arduous wait, unbeknownst to them, within just a short period in the forbidden tree hole of the heaven-reaching ancient tree, Yi Chen's combat power had once again undergone an earth-shattering change. Inside the forbidden tree hole, 2 days before the exploration of Nine Suns' ancient land was finished, Yi Chun was seated cross-legged in the void of the Prohibition tree hole space. At this moment, the realm aura surrounding Yi Chen's entire body had already broken through to the level of the 8th Tribulation's true god. 8th Tribulation's true god. Just 2 months ago, Yi Chun was still in the late stages of the Heavenly Saint realm, and now, in just 1 or 2 months, he had actually become an 8th Tribulation's true god. If this news were to spread, It would probably shake the entire divine kingdom even more than his affair with Long Li. After all, no one in the entire divine kingdom has ever heard of anyone transforming from the late stage of the heavenly saint realm to the eighth tribulation's true god in just 1 or 2 months. At this moment, Xiaojiu and the little monkey were standing in the void thousands of feet away from where Yi Chun was cultivating. Even Xiaojiu, who had been infused with countless pieces of knowledge by Lord Emperor Yen, couldn't help but click his tongue in amazement upon seeing Yi Chun successfully break through to the eighth tribulation's true god. Yi Chun, he's too strong. Not only does he have exceptional talent, but he also has extraordinary encounters. When he was charging from the heavenly saint realm to the true god realm, he triggered multiple heavenly tribulations, going from the late heavenly saint directly to the fourth tribulation's true god, which was already beyond belief. And then he encountered the heavenly union flame, the blue extreme ice flame, and the number 1 heaven's chosen girl of the divine kingdom, Long Li. Without Long Li, Yi Chun would have probably died amidst the heavenly union flame and blue extreme ice flame, never obtaining these 2 things. Without the heavenly union flame and blue extreme ice flame, Yi Chun wouldn't have been able to charge through the realms so quickly. All these circumstances combined allowed him to break through from the fourth tribulation's true god to the seventh tribulation's true god after the multiple heavenly tribulations. Moreover, with the fire elemental lotus seed that he risked his life to obtain in the flame mountain, which has the miraculous effect of promoting one small realm, Yi Chun truly became an eighth tribulation's true god after consuming it. At this rate, it probably won't take Yi Chun too long to break through from the true god realm to the god king realm. Thinking of this, Xiaojiu's eyes became brighter and brighter. Although Yi Chun is from a lower realm and had a later start than many people in the divine kingdom, his combat power is by no means weak, and his progress speed is unbelievably fast. I really look forward to the day Yi Chun becomes a divine venerable or even a sovereign. It's even highly possible for him to surpass the sovereign realm and become someone like Lord Emperor Yen. At this pace, it won't be long before Yi Chun can go find Sister Zhang Yao. With what has happened with him and Long Li, Yi Chun must be even more eager to see Sister Zhang Yao and share his feelings with her. Eighth tribulation's true god, Yi Chun has successfully broken through. However, the stellar power he cultivates is the truly crucial thing. After such a long time, I wonder how well Yi Chun's cultivation is progressing. In the end, Xiaojiu's gaze fell back on Yi Chun, looking at him with a mix of worry and anticipation. The little monkey at Xiaojiu's side was also quietly watching Yi Chun, waiting for Yi Chun's cultivation to end, just like Xiaojiu. At this moment, Yi Chun had also reached the critical period of cultivating the 4th chapter of the primordial star scripture, the primordial beginning chapter. Back in the Starlight Tower, Yi Chun not only obtained the cultivation mantra for the primordial beginning chapter of the primordial star scripture, but also acquired a stellar divine diagram. This stellar divine diagram was the foundation of cultivating the primordial beginning chapter. The entire stellar divine diagram consists of 2 major parts. One is cultivating the Taiyuan divine pill into the primordial star, and the other is creating stellar vortex spaces within the body to integrate all the stellar power from the stellar divine diagram, ultimately forming an internal stellar secret map with the primordial star at its center and myriad stellar vortex spaces hiding boundless stellar power. When the entire interstellar secret map is unraveled, it can connect with the outer cosmos, advancing into the 5th chapter of the primordial star scripture. Since obtaining the primordial beginning chapter, Yi Chun had been persistently cultivating the primordial star and the stellar vortices. When Yi Chun broke through from the heavenly saint realm to become a 4th tribulation's true god, the stellar divine diagram within him had reached the minor accomplishment stage. After merging with Long Li and breaking through to the 7th tribulation's true god, Yi Chun had not yet had the chance to further cultivate the stellar divine diagram. During this time in this tree hollow space, aside from leveraging the fire elemental lotus seed to break through to the 8th tribulation's true god, Yi Chun spent all his time cultivating the stellar divine diagram, focusing on the primordial star and the stellar vortices of the primordial beginning chapter. After spending more than 20 days, Yi Chun had finally made significant progress. At this moment, endless divine power surged in the Qi Sea within Yi Chen's body, indicating the immense strength of an eighth tribulation's true god. Moreover, his continuous breakthroughs in realm allowed him to absorb the stellar divine diagram even more swiftly, and Yi Chen had now created tens of thousands of stellar vortices inside his body. It truly formed a dense swarm of stellar vortices within him. Furthermore, these stellar vortices had captured the vast majority of the limitless stellar power from the stellar divine diagram. Even the Taiyuan divine pill, cultivated from the third chapter of the primordial star scripture, the Taiyuan chapter, had transformed into a glowing primordial star in Yi Chen's inner world, shining like a star. The primordial star shone at the center of Yi Chen's inner world, surrounded by densely packed stellar vortex spaces, radiating endless light of stellar power. This scenario clearly indicated that the cultivation of the primordial beginning chapter had reached great accomplishment. Yi Chen was only one step away, just needed to connect the primordial star and the stellar vortices with the outer cosmos to achieve great perfection in the fourth chapter of the primordial star scripture, the primordial beginning chapter, and step into the fifth chapter. Unfortunately, Yi Chen still couldn't sense the opportunity to connect with the outer cosmos. In the end, Yi Chen, who was seated in meditation, had to stop his cultivation and opened his eyes. As another day had passed, the day to leave the Nine Suns' ancient land had finally arrived.